Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. And we are going to start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would love it if Councilwoman Weber, would you lead us in the pledge?
I would love to. Thank you so much. And I love the flag there, so thank you. Will you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Great job. Okay, at this time, I'm going to send it to you, Madam Clerk, to call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Breckus?
I'm here.
Dewar? Delgado?
Here.
Weber?
Here.
Jordan?
Here.
Reese?
Here.
Sheevy?
Here.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Council.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to go to item A3, which will be public comment. And I know we have a special presentation. And then I just wanted to put it on the radar for council members. Next council meeting, we will more likely be back in person, which is good news. So anyway, just wanted to put that on for public comment. And I'm going to send it back to you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have a proclamation this morning. However, our attendee or esteemed presenter for the other end is not here yet, so we're going to give her a few minutes to join this meeting, and we're going to do some live public comment.
Perfect.
Okay. It should be noted for those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the mayor and council as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the council's agenda. Please note that council may not take action upon any matter not agendized for possible action. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. Lastly, while in this room, please be respectful. Warnings will be issued by the presiding officer if there's disruptive behavior, and you will be asked to leave chambers. Additionally, if you are in the attendee room and would like to give public comment under general comment A3, please raise your hand at this time and we will move you over. Our first commenter today is Terry Brooks, followed by Nick Vanderpool.
I'd like to address social interaction is related to work in the case of homelessness. When you are employed and go to work every weekday, you wind up learning a lot from what your coworkers say. You learn a lot about other people's opinions and views, and a lot about how others react to current news. And it's even better when your coworkers are diverse. Then there are even more topics into which everyone will immerse. When you interact with your neighbors and interact with your coworkers too, you will learn a lot about other people's points of view. When you see the same coworkers 5 days a week and you get used to interacting with them, you are even more likely to speak. But then if you lose your job, you not only lose your pay, but you also lose your coworkers with whom you interacted every day. So when you've lost your job and are now homeless and unemployed, you have lost a lot of social interaction that for a long time you had enjoyed. You have not only lost your desired occupation, but you have also lost your desired conversation. You not only lost a job on which you relied, but now you've lost some coworkers with which you would often confide. It can be a very challenging negative impact to lose the time and place and people with which you'd regularly interact. And if you had worked in a place where you dealt with customers too, that is something else that has been taken away from you. Social interaction is a major factor in our lives. But when you're homeless and unemployed, it's a loss that really deprives. I would like to thank you all for listening to me today And I look forward to coming back when I have even more to say. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
I hope you're putting those in a book.
Actually, I am. And about the end of this year or so, I'm going to have about 50 chapters in that book. And it's all handwritten because I don't have a computer or a typewriter. And if you're willing to publish my book and put the proceeds to a good cause to help the homeless, I'll give it to you.
I love that. Absolutely.
Okay, we'll keep in touch.
100%.
All right, our next commenter today is Nick Vanderpool.
Good morning, Madam Mayor. Is that on?
It is.
Perfect. Good morning,
Good
Madam.
morning.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and council members. For the record, my name is Nick Vanderpool with Flint Judici Government Affairs. Here today on behalf of the CPACE Alliance, which is made up of CPACE providers from across the country. I'm here to encourage the council support for agenda item B3, updating the City of Reno's CPACE program. Back in late 2020, I was approached about taking a bill before the Nevada legislature that would amend Nevada revised statute as it related to CPACE. That created an endeavor like none other. In the process, we involved many stakeholders ranging from local government to the private sector, and what emerged was Senate Bill 283, which was sponsored by Senator Chris Brooks. After all the hard work, Senate Bill 283 was signed by the governor. And I wanted to come here today to recognize Suzanne Groman as she was involved with Senate Bill 283 from day one. The city of Reno is fortunate to have her, and we were fortunate to have her in the legislative process. And also Callie Wilsey, who was keeping tabs on the numerous versions of the bill. So both of them were there throughout the process, and they deserve to be recognized for what is in front of council today. We believe Senate Bill 283 is an economic development opportunity that promotes energy conservation, but also water conservation. The CPACE Alliance is very much excited to work with the city of Reno and those who consider utilizing CPACE with their commercial projects. I thank you for your time, and we encourage this council support.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you for recognizing our incredible staff.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
All right, we will be moving over to our Zoom participants now. Helena Inskeep.
Hello, Madam Mayor and council members. On behalf of Truckee Meadows Habitat for Humanity, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Bonnie Weber and the Reno City Council for your generous donation to our organization. We are so grateful to have been a part of this community for over 20 years, and this money, which will remain local, will go towards continuing our vision of a world where everyone has a decent place to live. Currently, we are building a duplex in the Stead area for 2 families, both single moms, and we would not be able to support them or our 22 other homeowners without the generosity of the community and the council. So once again, I just want to say thank you so much for this donation to our organization, for enabling us to continue serving, and for your own service to our community. Thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, with that, we have no additional public comment. It should be noted for the record. We received a total of 24 public comments written in nature from various individuals in the community on various topics prior to 4 p.m. yesterday. 1 in opposition of a topic and 23 in concern. Those have been distributed to the Reno City Council. We will go ahead and transition into the 1 voicemail we have and then start the proclamation.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Thursday morning. I have a concern about the cleanliness of our city. In order to keep groups able and wanting to come and give us a revenue, with their conventions and Hot August nights and street vibrations and Italian festival and bowlers. Our city is not as clean as it should be. There's nobody picking up alongside the road in residential, commercial, or highways, and it's getting messy. We need to clean up the sides of the roads. We need to fix potholes. Thank you. I'm concerned about our revenue.
All right, Madam Mayor, we do have one additional Zoom participant public comment from Christy Kakragolu.
Good morning, Mayor Sheeby and council members. My name is Christy Chakarolu, and many of you know me because I've committed more than 2 decades of my professional career to working for local nonprofits that focus on the Truckee Meadows and being a safe and healthy place to live. The Truckee River is a source of our water supply, and it should be treated like the crown jewel of the Truckee Meadows. Instead, the Truckee River remains largely ignored because of a lack of funding and a lack of willpower to find the funding for improvements. You can bear witness to this neglect by just walking along the deteriorating river path that faces the back of commercial buildings. I mean, seriously, who thought building a garbage transfer station along the river was a good idea? The plan that was drafted by the One Truckee River Initiative and unanimously adopted by this council in 2016 provides a roadmap for improvements along the river that would move us towards a safe and healthy river corridor that encouraged everyone to come out and recreate. One of the key priorities identified by the plan was the need to install 10 restrooms along the river to allow for ease of use and access to local residents. To date, only one of these restrooms has been installed because of the tenacity and goodwill of Tumwa. For some reason, the idea of having a restroom along the river is less palatable to some people than the thought of what is happening now. And what is happening now? When users of the river have to relieve themselves, and at some point we all have to go, instead of jogging or walking to the nearest public restroom facility, because there are no public restroom facilities, users of the river are being forced to use a tree, or a bush, or a rock, or whatever is available, and then the results of that activity just flow down into our water supply. This is absolutely disgusting. It's ridiculous in this day and age that as a community, we're okay with the status quo. It's absolutely clear to me that without public restrooms, the Truckee River will never become the crown jewel of the Truckee Meadows. I encourage you to support item D, I believe it's D1, D2, the Truckee River Initiative, in support of restrooms. And I humbly ask that you and local elected officials cut through this inertia and take a step forward to provide safe facilities in which to defecate along the river. What's happening now is not good for our city, for tourism. It's not good for public perception, our economy, or our water supply. Thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, with that, we have no additional public comment. At this time, if you'll give me just a moment, we will move into the proclamation.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Oscar Delgado is going to read the proclamation. Additionally, we have moved over Jessica Van as a participant. If she would like to make a 3-minute statement, she's welcome to do that as well.
Oh,
Great.
Good morning, you all. Thank you very much, Mayor Sheeby, City Council members. My name is Jessica Van, and I serve as president of the Northern Nevada Black Culture Awareness Society. I just thank you all for making this proclamation and commemorating Black History Month. I do see it as an opportunity to not only highlight some of the members of our community and country that have made a great impact, but to also charge the city to continue conversation and seeking out those who are consistently working and giving their time to help make our community a better place. Organizations such as the NAACP, Hampton House Community Garden, Black Wall Street Reno, the Burrito Project, Our Story Inc., Shades of Queening, the Black Caucus of the Democratic Party of Washoe County, Accept, Pastor Deshaun Horn at Second Baptist Church. There's several others down the list that I would love to invite the city to get to know, and not only them, but of course us as well. NEPKIS is a 34-year organization that was created to make opportunities for the community to become aware of Black culture, not only for those who are, Black people, but for those who would like to know more. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to begin communication and just talking about what it means to be Black in not only the city, but in this country. And I'm sure you've known and seen several news stories and several conversations had, but we want to help educate and inform. And that's what we plan on serving as the connector. So not only that, we invite you all to come to a couple of events on the 27th of this month. We will have an art display that's already been there at the Nevada Museum of Art for the Summer of Soul. And it talks about the Harlem Cultural Fest. That was a 6-week program. A 6-week concert held in Harlem, New York, and brought out many different Black artists. And then, of course, the 28th of this month, we'll be celebrating our Dr. Martin Luther King Gala, which is normally set for January, Martin Luther King Day every year. However, we had to move it up due to the rising cases of COVID. And so I would like to invite you all to attend. There's information on our NEPKIS page on Facebook. And just to continue to reiterate that there's more to us than just Black History Month, and that learning Black culture is a 365-day project. And I would implore all of you to become a part. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. Fantastic. Great comments.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Go right ahead. The floor is all yours.
All right. Thank you, Jessica, for your leadership. And Jessica is so humble in many different ways. Madam Mayor, I've had the pleasure of knowing Jessica Van since high school. And she, even then, was a huge mentor and inspiration for many. And so thank you, Jessica, for the continuous leadership in our community. And thanks for naming everyone that you named. Love all you guys. Appreciate all the work you guys are doing. With that being said, Madam Mayor, I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas February is dedicated as Black History Month, highlighting the historical and present contributions, triumphs, and struggles of Black Americans. And whereas Black History Month commemorates through community activities and education a more balanced and accurate picture of Black history, and is celebrated yearly during the month of February as it coincides with the birthdays of the leaders Frederick Douglass, February 14th, and Abraham Lincoln, February 12th. And whereas the theme for this year's Black History Month is Black Health and Wellness, acknowledging the contributions and legacies of Black scholars and medical professionals, and shining light on the many facets of Black health and wellness. And whereas Black History Month has been celebrated in Reno by the Northern Nevada Black Cultural Awareness Society, NEPKIS, and many other local organizations. And whereas Black Americans have strengthened and continue to strengthen our nation by urging reforms, overcoming obstacles, and breaking down barriers. And whereas the city of Reno recognizes the significant contributions and monumental advances of the Black community in the biggest little city and around the world, in such areas as education, medicine, art, culture, public service, economic development, politics, and human rights. And whereas the city of Reno proudly honors Black History Month and continuously embraces diversity. Now, therefore, I, Oscar Delgado, on behalf of the Mayor, Shivi, and the Reno City Council, do hereby proclaim February 2022 as Black History Month. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for proclaiming this month Black History Month. Thank you, Jessica, and all the leaders in our community for continuing to educate and be a part of this community. Look forward to continue to support you guys, and I know the Mayor and all of us do. Thank you so much. Madam Mayor, thank you for the honor.
Wow, fantastic job, Councilman. And Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
The honor is all ours.
right, Madam Mayor, with that,
Okay.
we have no additional public comment, and we're moving on to item A4.
Okay, at this time, may I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I have a
Second,
motion, Councilman Reese, and a second from, looks like Councilwoman Weber. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move
All
to
right.
approve the minutes of January 12th, 2022.
All right, thank you so much. I have item A5, approval of the minutes. I have a motion from Councilman Reese and a second from Councilwoman Weber. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, heading into consent agenda items. Madam Clerk, at this time, do you have any public comment?
Madam Mayor, I have none registered. However, if you are, as a participant, would like to comment on one of our consent agendas, please raise your hand at this time.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you do, just go ahead and interrupt me,
Sounds good.
because I think you can see something a little bit different than I can see on my screen. So that's fine. Just interrupt me if someone has public comment. So at this time, I'm going to ask council members if they have items to pull off the consent agenda. I'm going to go to Councilman at Large, Devin Reese.
No, ma'am, I'm good today. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to head over to Councilman Delgado.
I am. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, Vice Mayor Jordan.
None, thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Webb.
I just wanted to maybe I will pull off B3, not for presentation, but I just wanted to acknowledge our staff's work. So I'll
Okay.
B3. I'll pull it.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Weber.
nothing, thank you.
Okay, great. Councilwoman Breckus.
B3, please.
Okay. All right. May I get a motion to accept all the consent agenda items?
I'll make that motion.
A
This is
motion from
Breckus.
Councilwoman Dewar, and I think a second from Councilwoman Breckus.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, heading over to B3, I'm going to send it over to you, Councilwoman Dewar.
Well, I thought this was a great opportunity just to recognize the work of Suzanne Groneman and our community. I mean, they have all come together, first the plan and then the doing. And I just wondered if we could just hear a few words from Suzanne and recognize her on her continuing good works here.
Unfortunately, Suzanne is not available this morning. We
Okay.
do have Callie, who
Okay.
was also intimately involved, but I would echo your sentiments. Suzanne has been an integral part of moving this program forward.
Okay, Callie?
Good afternoon. I am sorry, Councilmember Dewar, I missed the question. The audio wasn't quite there with me yet. I was being moved over.
So I know we're sort of in a different phase. We're amending and restating the CPACE program, which I think is an odd acronym, but because it doesn't really speak to what it is, but it's the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. Could you just give us a 1 minute on this and what's changing?
You bet, absolutely. So the program allows those on commercial property to establish a special assessment, and that's ultimately why the government is involved, that allows them to fund these projects that will help improve energy efficiency on their sites. The bill last session was meant to kind of clarify some of the pieces that weren't as clear to some other local governments who hadn't implemented the program quite yet. But some of the changes that we saw in the legislation that you're seeing in this kind of revised resolution is clarifying that we do not, as a city, have to issue bonds for them to complete a project. It actually expands the types of projects that are eligible to include resiliency projects, such as indoor air quality and stormwater quality. So a lot of things that are aligning with our strategic plan. So there was just some clarifying language, and we had previously had two resolutions. So we are actually combining them into one for cleanup to make sure it's easier to manage as well going forward.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for that update. As to my knowledge, we were the first city in Nevada to implement the CPACE program. I may have that wrong. Could you just confirm or?
I do not know that. I can definitely follow up with Suzanne at a future.
I'm pretty sure in talking to Suzanne that if not the first, we've been at the front lines. And number two, when Suzanne gets back, it would be great. I know that we want to understand how many commercial properties are moving forward with this program and in what way. And I think, Mr. Manager, it'd be great to get a presentation on that at some point. Because I think it kind of aligns with the mayor's climate support, climate initiative, the projects we've identified, the master plan, the downtown action plan, the commitment, for example, at Moana Pool to use both geothermal and solar on site, as well as have a nearby off-site community solar project with MV Energy. I mean, we're doing so much that I think it's good every so often to take a snapshot of what we are doing, how we are progressing. It doesn't have to be a long presentation, but I did want to highlight the good works here. So thank you.
I think it's definitely an opportunity for Ms. Groneman and Ms. Wilsey to highlight the program. To date, we're not aware of any commercial entity taking advantage of the CPACE program in Reno, but that's one of the reasons why that's one of the reasons for the legislative change. And so ideally, once we move forward here, the program will be easier to access, easier to utilize, and we'll see activity pick up in that space.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Breckus?
Yeah, I mean, that was the question I asked of the manager of my briefing is, have we had any of these come forward? And Mr. Manager, do you know if any have come forward elsewhere in other jurisdictions?
We're running that down. We don't have an answer for you on that question right at the moment.
That's great. Yeah, I'd like follow-up too. I mean, I think within the suite of all the climate actions we're taking, we really need to focus on those that are materializing and those that aren't, and evaluate, where we're putting our efforts. Because, as we know, the climate is changing so quickly, and such strong action and focus and deliverables are required. So thank you very much, Mr. Manager, and I'll look forward to learning more about the whole implementation of our climate actions across the board. Thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item B3.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a motion from Councilwoman Dewar. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Delgado. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, thanks, Callie. Okay, moving on. Madam Clerk, we're gonna now go into the public hearing. At this time, I am going to have one of our city attorneys read this, but before we do that, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Let the record reflect that the city council is now opening the public hearing. Please confirm, Madam Clerk, that proper notice was given and any correspondence received.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Proper notice was given on this item and correspondence was received. However, in reflection, it doesn't show if they were in support or opposition of the item, so I will follow back up after I have that obtained.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to send it over to the ever so famous Carl Hall. Go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an ordinance introduction, bill number 7200, case number LDC 22-00027, North Valley's Commerce Center zoning map amendment. Ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, Rezoning, plus or minus 256.3 acre site comprised of 14 parcels from mixed-use suburban to industrial commercial. The site is generally located on the north and south sides of North Virginia Street near its intersection with Doubleback Road and has the industrial and suburban mixed-use master plan land use designations Ward 4.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, I think we have Nathan Gilbert. So go ahead, Nathan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, if I could have the opportunity to share the presentation.
Go right ahead, Nathan. Thank you.
I apologize. I thought this was going to be loaded.
No worries.
At this time, Madam Mayor, I'll take the opportunity to just state on the record that we did receive correspondence as one letter of opposition on this item.
Okay, thank you.
Nathan, would you like us to go ahead and present for you?
I would sure appreciate that. I would save
Okay.
everybody
Give
the
us just
heartache.
a moment to get it loaded up here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. Thank you for your patience. For the record, I'm Nathan Gilbert, Senior Planner with Development Services. Next slide, please. So this is a request for a zoning map amendment from mixed-use suburban to the industrial commercial zoning designation on approximately 256 acre site along the North Virginia Industrial Corridor. Key issues in staff analysis were compatibility with the master plan and compatibility with surrounding zoning districts and uses. Next slide, please. This gives an example of the area identified in that red crosshatch is the existing mixed-use suburban designation that translated from with the code update from the previous mixed-use North Virginia Transit Corridor designation, and then the designation to industrial commercial on the proposed area. Next slide, please. This area highlights the master plan designation. It is a designated employment industrial designation along this portion of the corridor and assigned the industrial master plan designation with the 2017 Reimagine Reno master plan. I do want to point out, and I apologize, I don't have a pointer that you can see at the very bottom right, of one of the 14 parcels, there is a half-acre portion that is not part of this request. It was noticed as 14 parcels, but this half-acre portion was adjusted through a boundary line adjustment. It's less than 0.02% of the total request. It would not be included. That was created through a boundary line adjustment and does not have a corresponding master plan designation. So that portion is not included with this request. Next slide, please. You can see the subject area is just to bring this into conformance with the master plan designation. It is almost entirely built out, over 99%. We're currently under construction with warehouse and distribution uses. The majority of these, if not all, have existing special use permits and conditions of approval, whether it be for residential adjacency, disturbance of a major drainage way, cuts and fills, things of that nature. Any applicable conditions of approval would remain with the zone change. This is just to bring the site into conformance with the master plan designation. Next slide, please. Summary of uses, in the mixed use suburban has allowed uses that are not necessarily compatible with industrial designations, primarily residential. High density residential is allowed by right under that. Under the industrial commercial zone, it would not, similar with healthcare facilities, educational facilities, and things of that nature. Development standards are actually slightly more restrictive in the industrial commercial designation. The maximum height is 45 feet, and it would require a conditional use permit if the facility was over 500,000 square feet. Again, most of this is all existing development, and most of them, if not all, were subject to special use permits for various triggers, and any applicable conditions of approval will be maintained. Next slide, please. The Planning Commission was able to make all the required findings in NRS and found that the request is substantially in conformance with the master plan. Next slide, please. The Planning Commission recommends that Council refer this case for a second reading and adoption. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Good job. Okay, council questions. I'm going to send it over to Councilwoman Dewar. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks there for that presentation, Nathan. Quick question. I'm trying to understand in other instances where we've rezoned large portions or properties, even if a number of the properties are already that thing, to your point, what I was wondering is how many properties would now be in non-conformance with the zoning? So you put this on top, and there's some properties, that are zoned differently. Now they're inconsistent with the master plan. Could you just explain that?
Sure. If that were the case, that would be considered an existing non-conforming use, and they could be allowed to continue to operate in perpetuity. In this instance, this does not create any non-conformities. Warehouse and distribution uses were allowed by right in both districts.
In the previous district. So what is the goal of doing this then? Maybe I've missed that.
This would bring the zoning into conformance with the master plan.
Okay, one more question. So the ones that are already approved, like the industrial, would some of them now be non-conforming because let's say they're too tall or the setbacks aren't there? I mean, is that possible? The right type of use, but maybe the terms of it don't comply.
It's possible, for example, that the height difference that I mentioned, the previous zone allowed for 55 feet in height. It's possible that some of those buildings were built to the allowable standards under the previous zone, and that height difference would be considered an existing non-conforming under the new designation.
Okay, one more question. I know that when they changed the zoning on some areas, let's say over near Lakeside, which is in Ward 2, it threw a lot of properties in that instance into suddenly this non-conforming. And every time something came forward, they would say, well, this site is non-conforming. It might be an existing single-family home. It was now gone to either suburban mixed use or something. And it was almost like a selling point. Like, well, this individual home is non-conforming, so we need to do a new project or something. Is that, I mean, are you guys initiating this, or was this a request from all of these industrial users, or what?
Yes, this was a request by the applicant with the intention of bringing the zoning into conformance with the master plan designation. So the example that you referenced in Ward 2, I'm thinking 22 on Lakeside or similar projects
there
like
was a
that.
bunch of them.
Yeah, when we say this is the existing use is non-conforming, and in those examples, the zoning was higher, and the development would be bringing it into conformance. In this example, the warehouse and distribution uses are already conforming. There may be some non-conformities with the site design. Other than that, there wouldn't be any anticipated.
Okay. And finally, the applicant that you've referenced, who exactly is that?
It's an LLC, and my understanding is that it's a pension fund that largely owns them.
It's the buildings of
the
this
greater,
type.
yeah, the greater North Valleys Commerce Center.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other council members? Okay, I'm going to send it over to Councilwoman Weber.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. I would like to make a motion, and I move to uphold the recommendation of the Planning Commission and refer the bill for a second reading and adoption.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilwoman Weber, a second from Councilman Reese. All those in favor say aye.
Madam Mayor, could we have discussion on the motion, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to support this ordinance. I think it's a mechanical step of the haphazard manner in which we've been allocating and implementing the land use visions of our master plan. By default, what we've done in not a comprehensive way is allowed a lot of land, good land for development, relatively, to convert from residential to distribution warehouse. We have not, through our public policy, preserved and set aside land for residential development. And this is an example one that was very broad and mixed use. We could have had subdivisions out there, but now we have distribution and warehouse out there. And this is why I argued so strongly throughout the zoning code update that we needed a warehouse distribution zoning district specific. And what has happened is a lot of land has pivoted over to this distribution warehouse. We find ourselves in a strong shortage of residential land supply. And I think that's was a problem. It was haphazard. We weren't advancing the public policy of the master plan, which is to have balanced land uses and examine those throughout the region and monitor the land supply. So while I support this mechanically, the last step, I want to highlight that because I think we get a lot of blowback on where is the land for residential. Well, right now, this is where it is. It's doing distribution, and that's an economic choice that the market's made. And it's a public policy one that we've made also, and I want to highlight that. I appreciate the manager conveying to staff to present the applicability of the special use permits, because I've always had a question when you rezone or you redo the code, do those special use permits that were in effect at the time still live? I sure hope so, because we know we have a lot of residential adjacents here, and people who saw these warehouses go up next to their houses, maybe participate in the process and have a condition or so that they felt was necessary for their enjoyment of their property. So I appreciate staff bringing that information forward. And I guess that concludes my comments. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
All right. Go ahead, Councilman Weber.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the comments made by Councilwoman Breckus. It's almost like I'm sharing the pain for this community because of, what's happening in the North Valleys. But it's also working really good, but for housing, it's really the tough part. So thank you, Councilwoman Breckus.
Okay, Councilman Reese.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I suppose I'm not sure I disagree with Ms. Breckus's concerns from a planning standpoint, but in as much as it omits something which I think is important. I mean, the last time I checked, we had something like 55,000 permitted residential units that have been sought but are unbuilt. And so this narrative somehow that we aren't permitting fast enough or we aren't allowing residential to be constructed, those permits have all been pulled. Maps have been designed and approved. They're just not being built. I mean, so again, I just think that it is a false narrative to say that the enemy of housing is somehow a design flaw in our process. Certainly much of the North Valleys has been identified and zoned in a particular way, and that's what these particular businesses are looking at. This particular example was approved unanimously at the Planning Commission. I think that tells you that people with thoughtful planning mentality are doing the work. And so I just don't know. I just don't think that the comment, it misses the mark for me. And so I just remind this body that we have approved and a lot of housing is out there, just hasn't been built yet for a variety of factors.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go right ahead. Councilwoman Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you. Excuse my dog as he's barking, I think, the UPS truck. I felt the need to kind of chime in and to my colleagues, Reese and Weber, with regards to the comment that somehow our and the Planning Commission's thoughtful consideration of these developments was somehow haphazard or not well thought out. I completely disagree with that and find some irony in the comments being made for someone who continually doesn't support housing in North Valleys. So your comments ring shallow, my council member from Ward 1, as to your thoughts that we don't think thoughtfully about all considerations of development in anywhere within our city. And I think Councilwoman Weber represents this area quite well and understands her constituency and the things that are best for this area of our region. So thank you, Councilwoman Weber.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're moving on to item C2 to be read by the city
Okay.
attorney.
All right, I will send it over to Carl Hall in 1 second, but at this time, let the record reflect that we are now opening the public hearing. Madam Clerk, was proper notice given? Any correspondence received?
Madam Mayor, proper notice was given. A correspondence was received as 2 letters of support in this item, and additionally, we do have 1 voicemail. While we're transitioning to voicemail, if you are in the participant room and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time.
Yes, this is for LDC 21-00070 on February 9th. Paul Crooks, my phone number is 775-762-6800. I'm a local businessman and have been for 45 years. In regards to this matter for the Barlows and Little City Landscape, for the matter over on Linden, I helped them acquire that property a number of years ago. They've helped stabilize that neighborhood. They've been the stabilizing factor in the neighborhood and have helped clean that neighborhood up with their business and their property acquisition and their business. They're very much an asset to the city of Reno in that area, and I recommend that you give them a positive review. And if you have any questions, you may call me, and I'd be glad to answer any of them for you. Again, I'm very positive for the work that they've done there, their business, and as property owners, they've enhanced that neighborhood and helped to stabilize it. Thank you very kindly. Bye.
All right, Madam Clerk, do you have any more public comment?
Madam Mayor, we have no additional public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then at this time, I'm going to send it over to our city attorney, Carl Hall. Take it away.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ordinance introduction, bill number 7201, case number LDC 21-00070, Little City Landscape Specific Plan District. Ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, rezoning a plus or minus 1.51 acre area from MF30, multifamily residential, to Little City Landscape Specific Plan District, and amending the Little City Landscape Specific Plan District Handbook to add enhanced site development standards and modify permitted uses and hours of operation. The plus or minus 1.86 acre site, acre subject site includes 2 parcels located on the south side of Linden Street, plus or minus 450 feet west of Kitsky Lane. The site has master plan land use designations of suburban mixed use and multifamily neighborhood. Ward 1.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, any questions from council members?
Madam
Seeing
Mayor.
that there
Oh.
none, I'm going to send it over to Councilwoman Breckus.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't require a staff report for this. I move, if you're ready for a motion, I'll make one.
Go ahead.
I move to uphold the recommendation of the Planning Commission and refer the bill for a second. Oh, I'm sorry. Why do I? No, for a second reading adoption, subject to condition 1 as written below. And
Second.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second from Councilman Reese. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Madam Clerk, heading into item C3, we will now open the public hearing. Let the record reflect that the City Council is now opening the public hearing on this item. Madam Clerk, was proper notice given? Any correspondence received?
Madam Mayor, thank you. Proper notice was given and no correspondence was received on this item. Additionally, just for the members here, we do have the applicant's representative live in the room if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to send it to Vice Mayor and ask her, would you like a staff presentation?
Yes, please, a brief one. Thank you.
Okay, Kyle, I believe it's you. All right, the floor is yours, Kyle. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Kyle Chisholm, Associate Planner for the record. I apologize for my voice. I'm pretty sick today, so I'll try and get through this and make it brief.
I appreciate you being home and keeping everybody safe. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, while Mr. Chisholm is loading up, I think that Mr. Chisholm, I'm so sorry that you're not feeling well, but ultimately, I suppose I'll just say that this is one of the reasons why we have not been meeting in person. It's because we're trying to keep our staff safe, our public safe. I'd like very much to be in chambers with all of you, but I just think it's not the right time yet. But thank you, Mr. Chisholm, for being here, even in spite of your being ill. My heart goes out to you.
Yeah, and the city has done a wonderful job accommodating us and, getting us through and making our jobs easier. So I'll get going. So this is an alley abandonment. Highlighted on your screen there in yellow is the subject alleyway. It's a small remnant portion of a greater alleyway that I'll explain here in a second. There's 3 parcels, private parcels that abut the alleyway there, and I've highlighted those in blue. And those 3 parcels are also the parties and applicant of this request. So south of the abandonment area, and I hope you can see my cursor, but I also put an arrow there showing previous abandonment 2020. So that the rest of this alleyway to the south was abandoned in 2020. Also north across East 6th Street, that is the Canyon Flats project, student housing project. And the alleyway through that, obviously what we see now there as that student housing project, that portion of that alleyway was also abandoned. So really just wanted to highlight that this is just a small remnant portion of what was once a much bigger alleyway that provided a lot of connectivity and no longer serves that purpose. Some master plan policies. I got to move my screen around here. Some master plan policies that support this abandonment. It's in the downtown mixed use area or designation. Some of those policies talk about thriving downtown and university district, revitalization, infill, underutilized properties, and public safety. Just want to touch on the public safety just a little bit here. We've seen this with a lot of downtown and kind of urban core about abandonments. A lot of those requests coming in. The public safety aspect just has to do a lot with the maintenance of these alleys and the ability for the property owners to gate them off if they need it. There's been a lot of illegal camping and drug use, as we know, in many of these alleyways. And so this remnant portion of what was once a bigger alleyway is no different. And this is the zoning picture. It's a mixed-use downtown entertainment district zone with redevelopment of this area. We would anticipate seeing new streetscape, trees, lighting, widened sidewalks, a pedestrian-friendly environment, and a vibrant urban core. That's what the zoning code that the council has adopted requires with new development. And so I'll just kind of get into some views of this alley. This is a view looking south from East 6th Street. That's the alleyway there, kind of in the middle of the screen to the right of that red truck. Again, it's a very small portion. It no longer provides access or connectivity to through city blocks. It's just only really provides access to those 3 parcels that are requesting this. Here is a view looking north from East 5th Street, which is south of the alley. And so these are some buildings that you could possibly consider blighted. And here is a view today of that same block that shows that those buildings have been removed, and it appears that there's some redevelopment activity starting to occur. I do want to note that we haven't received any plans for development of this block, but the alley would help facilitate such. Here's kind of an example. This is just This is from East 6 and Virginia, just kind of northwest of the alleyway. This is the Canyon Flats project that I mentioned that's constructed today. This is just to give you an idea of kind of what redevelopment in this urban core will look like. This is what our code requires, right? This project obviously met code, and this is kind of just kind of showing an example of what redevelopment could look like. Here's just a snapshot of the finding. As you know, there's just one finding, and that's that the public is not materially injured by the proposed abandonment. As I mentioned, this alley no longer serves a purpose for reasons of connectivity, and also would reduce the maintenance responsibility and liability for the city. And so that concludes my presentation. Above on the screen is the motion that I'm recommending, or staff is recommending, and I am here for any questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
All right. Kyle, thank you. I thought you did a great job, and we wouldn't even know that you didn't feel so well, and that's crummy. So right after this, we want you to get back in bed and drink lots of fluids. # Mayor made me do it. Okay. Councilwoman Dewar, go ahead.
Quick question, Kyle. I'd read the staff report, looked at the maps, and looked at it on Google Earth, and I was confused because you kept saying that it wouldn't block access south, of the section. And then I finally realized what you were saying in this last comment, that we've previously abandoned the south portion of the alley. And so that already has been assigned to buildings on either side, or how did that end up?
Yes, exactly right. That from the center line, the alley went to the property owners on either side, and the same would be the case for this.
And there's no redevelopment. I mean, it looked like they had a nice building there already, the one facing on 6th Street. So they just want to be able to close off the alley. Is that what you're basing? Is that what's driving this request?
Yeah, they're just the applicant is requesting it. They do have plans to. Ken Crater is available for questions as well. I forgot to mention that he's the applicant's representative, but we would anticipate those properties either being combined or sold or redeveloped at some point, but we have not yet received plans to do that.
So does the applicant just have the property on the west side, and then the one on the east side is a different owner?
No, the applicant, it's two groups, two businesses essentially, and they're both party to the request, the west and east side.
Right. Okay, they're both party to the request, but they're separate owners though.
That's
what
correct.
I mean, one could buy out the other at some point, but I mean, today's world.
Yeah, and to that point, that's exactly what happened to the south. So that used to be a bunch of different parcels. It used to be, I think, 12 or 14 different parcels.
Right.
They all combined under one sole ownership. And so that's why, again, we imagine something similar is in the works here, but we haven't received
That may be a redevelopment of this portion of the site. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Kyle? Go ahead, Councilwoman Breckus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Chisholm, this is called, I thought, staff gives it a name when they come in addition to a number, Reno Vulcanizing Alley Abandonment. But the portion of the alley to be abandoned is not adjacent to Reno Vulcanizing, or is it?
It is. They own the one parcel on the west side of the alleyway.
Okay.
I can pull my screen back up if that.
Well, actually, I think I see it. It's the covered one there. Now, here's a consideration for me, and I see Mr. Crater approaching the dais, and maybe he can answer. But I am the representative of the Historic Resources Commission, and as we start to see demolitions, as we even start to see, thankfully, on some parcels, construction, we're seeing a tremendous loss of buildings and businesses. And that's a public harm and concern to me. This is a 100-year-old business. It's possibly the oldest one downtown. And we saw over on Harry's Business Machines, which has been over in existence since the 20s, when a partial abandonment happened and they got their half, considerable hardship to them. And I'm not entirely sure within the real estate market there aren't then squeezes on business operators. I really, really wish and believe, and the HRC is having their workshop tomorrow, that that these abandonments, when there's historic resources on the block, need to come to the Historic Resources Commission for the council to thoughtfully make these considerations of harm and staff to evaluate the historic nature of these. So, because this is 125-year, urban design and buildings, and now businesses, a 100-year-old business. So and before Mr. Crater steps up and I give it over to Madam Mayor, Mr. Chisholm, were they an applicant, Reno? The property owner or the business?
The property owner of the Reno vulcanizing
Was the applicant?
Yes.
Was the applicant. Okay. And was the business given notice?
I can address that
Okay.
question.
Okay.
I would have to like.
Okay,
Mr.
we'll
Crater
let
answer
Mr.
that, but-
Crater, Madam Mayor as presiding officer would have to call him to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Crater, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you. For the record, Ken Crater. So the Besso Menante families own all of the property, both on the east side and the west side of the alley that's been requested for abandonment. They also own Reno Vulcanizing and operate that business. So it's all one and the same. And they thought about going in with the property to the south when I applied for that abandonment a couple years ago, but they just weren't comfortable at the time, didn't understand the process. But now that they've seen that portion abandoned and they've talked with the owner of that property, they realize it's in the best interest of their property long-term to abandon the remaining 100-foot section of the alley. And there's some good news is that both property owners have agreed to work together to abandon the utilities in the alley, including that, in my opinion, very ugly overhead electric line that runs through the middle of the alley. So I think that would help with the blight and cleaning this up. And to speak to Councilwoman Breckis's comment, I served on the Historical Resource Commission for a number of years. And I think all of you on council know how much I love this community. And I've already talked to the Besso and Menante families about some options to preserve that building. It's a great building. And if you've never had a chance to go inside, it's amazing. That building is built so well, the thick walls, the concrete, the brick. So there's no guarantee that it'll be saved, but I think abandonment of the alley and allowing for reversion to acreage map for that to become a single parcel. They do have plans to demolish the older existing home, which has long outlived its useful life. But in my mind, it's the Reno Vulcanizing building that's really a gem for our community. And I will certainly do everything I can to work with those families to find a use, an adaptive reuse for that great old building. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Any further questions for
Madam
Mr.? Go ahead, Councilwoman Jordan.
Thank you very much. And we probably should have just had Ken come up right after Kyle, because it
Yeah.
might have answered some questions before they became questions or assertions or assumptions. So my comments are to thank Mr. Crater and the property owners and business operators for their work with regards to this. We've seen a lot of the properties around it that are being developed. I will say we were so excited when the student housing project was coming in, and thrilled to see that project going live. I was a bit skeptical about the color scheme when it first opened, but I'll tell you, it's growing on me. It's growing on me. This section of the alleyway, it does present an ongoing problem. My work with the Downtown Reno Partnership, this is one of those hot spots that is a dark and dark area that can be problematic, and particularly when you're talking about students walking near it and visitors going to and from different facilities. It does present a bit of a problem. So that fact and the fact that all of the property owners and business folks involved have signed off and are supportive of this makes this an easy one for me. So Madam Mayor, if it's okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve this and that the public will not be materially injured with this proposed abandonment.
All right, thank you.
And I might have just slaughtered your motion. I apologize.
That's okay, I gotcha. All right, I have a motion from Vice Mayor Jardine. Do I get a second? I have a second from Councilwoman Weber, I believe. I can tell by
Yes.
lip reading. In a second, all those in favor say aye.
Madam Mayor, could we have discussion on the motion, please? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm going to support the motion. I think it's really a second step in something that was done before. But I really want to call out the significance of the urban design and the remaining, and we've lost so many in that casino entertainment core buildings of historic significance. And I thoroughly expect that when we take in applications like this, there's an analysis, there's even conversations among those in our staff who are, whose job is to help us revitalize downtown with those buildings, with the businesses. And I have the downtown master plan here. And it says, and this is an action item, identify historic properties and establish a rating of overall historic significance to help guide and target rehabilitation and or demolition. I think a critical step of implementing our downtown plan is to understand those ones. And when an application like this comes in, then we know that our central concern is the public harm that could be caused to a historic building by an action of demolition. These buildings, the fewer there are, the more they add to the integrity and the fabric of our downtown and the interest and the vitality. And I think we really need to start to be very protective of them. I'm assured by the comments I've heard from Mr. Crater, but there's never any assurances. There's never any conditions on abandonment that can be applied. And we will see, because I absolutely get needing to aggregate blocks, but if this block comes with the demolition of that property, that building, and a 100-year-old business, that's going to be a setback for downtown, even if we get all the residential units in there, in my view. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for letting me have commentary on the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Kyle, get to bed. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. I know that was probably tough, but you did a great job. Amazing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, everybody.
Beat.
Bye.
Bye. Feel better. Okay. Madam Clerk, sending it right back to you. Thank you so much.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're moving on to item D1 with the City Attorney's Office, opioid litigation partial settlement.
Okay, thank you so much. Madam Clerk, at this time, do you have any public comment on this?
Madam Mayor, we have no public comment registered and no correspondence was received.
Okay, fantastic. I think we're going to send it over to our City Attorney, Jonathan Shipman. Jonathan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the record, John Shipman, City Attorney's Office. This item, as you recall, just a quick little update. The City of Reno and the State of Nevada initiated litigation against opioid manufacturers, distributors, et cetera. And at this point with the state litigation, they're ready to and the recommendation is from the Attorney General's office and from our special counsel to settle with regard to these four manufacturers of opioids. It'll leave approximately 25 additional plaintiffs still in the case. So this is not in any way, putting an end to that litigation. It is rather just strategically looking at a handful of manufacturers and the recommendations for settlement with these for a variety of reasons. So before you today, what they're asking is that you approve these agreements. The Attorney General is asking that you approve these agreements And what it will mean is there'll probably be something in the neighborhood of between $1 million and $2 million that would flow to the city of Reno in terms of settlement funds that could be used for opioid remediation activities going forward. And there's a whole host of types of activities that can be used for programmatically, potentially for doing things with like capital improvements and whatnot. And this is kind of the first round of this because there are additional plaintiffs, because there's a plan for the entire state. This becomes kind of the beginning point of a broader rollout for opioid remediation. So with that, if there are any questions, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability.
Okay, thank you so much, Jonathan. We really appreciate it. I am very, very proud of the city of Reno. I'm proud of all the work that you have put into this, Jonathan. You've done a tremendous job, but I'm very proud of the city. All of you should be. We were the first to take this on. Obviously, I felt very strongly about it, and it was kind of uncomfortable at the time with the Attorney General, but I felt it was the right thing to do. And we moved forward and other cities followed. And I think this is going to truly make a difference. We need a lot more resources and a lot more money to tackle this, but this is just the start. And I would just ask you, Jonathan, in the sense, I feel very strongly, treatment options are incredibly expensive. And I think, we really need to do a better job of that. When we talk about some of the parameters in which the state says that it can be allocated for, which I don't disagree. I 100% believe it needs to go right back into treatment and whatever, addiction looks like, and helping our individuals, get through this, because it's really challenging. But do we have the ability from this sort of list of requirements that we get to sort of choose from? I just want to make sure that it stays exactly where it should. Other cities have used it for improvements on stadiums and things that are absolutely, I think, disgusting. So I would really just want to make a strong statement to the council to keep it in treatment. And I know that they probably believe the same. But do we get to sort of decide from a menu, or how does that work?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. So based upon the experience that the state and other states had with things like the tobacco settlement, there are strings, or there's requirements that are placed on this settlement, kind of making sure that that the proceeds actually go for opioid remediation. With that said, there's a pretty wide swath of programs and activities that you can engage in. The key here is that the care, the treatment, the expenditures must, number one, be designed to address the misuse and abuse of opioid products. 2, treat or mitigate opioid use or related disorders. Or 3, mitigate other alleged effects, including those injured as a result of the opioid epidemic. And there will be a reporting requirement back to the court in terms of what those proceeds are used for. There's also an administrative piece that would have to be put in place. And I understand, talking with Doug and talking with Jackie, that, stay tuned, because staff is going to have some recommendations about what potentially this funding can be used for going forward. So.
Okay. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you. And I know that he no longer works with us, but I want to say thank you to Scott Gillis. He walked that road with me, and it was something I won't forget. And I really appreciate you, Jonathan, because you did a lot of legwork on that end too. So you guys did a phenomenal job. Super grateful. Okay. Any more questions? That being said, may I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve staff recommendations.
All right. Thank you. I have a motion and a second from Councilman Delgado. Question from Councilwoman Weber or Dewar?
No, I was seconding.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. We move on. Madam Clerk. Thanks, Jonathan.
We're moving on to item D2, which is the One Truckee River Management Plan and Restroom Project. It should be noted for the record that we did receive correspondence on this item as 2 letters of support and 1 letter of concern.
Okay, great. So do you have any public comments or no?
We don't have any public comment live in the audience at this. Oh, I'm sorry, we do have 1 public commenter. My apologies. Beverly J. Harry would like to speak. Additionally, if you are in the attendee room and you would like to speak, please raise your hand at this time.
Okay, great.
Beverly, go ahead.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
We can. I can hear you.
Oh, good. So my name is Beverly Harry. I'm the Native Community Organizer for the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada. I am also the late Norm Harry's wife for about 30 years. And so Norm Harry was a water protector, and he spent so much time, with his within his life protecting water and lands from contamination, and he provided us a legacy to honor life. His passion to protect water and lands from contamination for his people, and the way that he guarded threatened and endangered species was just amazing. So it is my hope that you are meeting regularly with downstream tribes to resolve issues on the Truckee River, but also resolve the impacts that lead to the risks of cultural and human right impacts to Indigenous people. And I hope that you're not neglecting those duties. So I also think that with the amount of new development that is being planned and the new onset of problems that is going to be coming with the Washoe County Lands Bill, that you also have to, plan with the tribes effectively and meet with them and talk to them about the cultural impacts and the human rights impacts that are being discussed by their communities. And so the areas of concern of cultural sites that we see within these areas like Peavine Mountain, and then the areas around the Truckee River where people have been taken out when different projects were planned. Those individuals that have been removed, they had families, and they also had people, tribes that cared about them deeply. And so I want you to continue to think about how these projects are being planned. And for the sake of public disclosure, I'm not going to cite these cultural sites, especially to protect the tribes and the areas that are being planned around them. But this past year with River Justice, I led a team of hundreds of volunteers.
Thanks, Ms. Harry. Your time is over.
Oh, shoot.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great comments.
All
Very
right.
good. Very
Madam
good.
Mayor, our next public commenter is Iris Gel Papard.
I have a presentation. I don't know if you want me to get into that now or.
Oh, I apologize. Our next public commenter then, Madam Mayor, we do have one additional, is Dominique Buncio.
Okay, great. And then I think we'll go to Jamie, and Jamie will pass it to Iris. Okay, perfect. Let's move on to public comment. Continuation. Madam Clerk, I
Dominique?
can't hear.
Nope, I
anything.
don't, she hasn't been speaking yet. Dominique, you have the floor if you'd like to make public comment on this item. Okay, we're going to move her back into the waiting room, and if she's able to get tech, we'll figure it out. We'll move her back.
Okay, great.
Jamie,
Just
the
let us.
floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Council. For the record, Jamie Schroeder, Director of Parks and Recreation. This item before you today is an update on the One Truckee River Management Plan that was adopted by the Reno City Council back in 2016. Specifically, Irish Jaylee Papard will be giving this presentation. She is the Executive Director of One Truckee River. And then what she'll do is take a deeper dive on the plan with an update on the river restroom project and the vegetation management plan. Before Iris gives her presentation, I did want to take a minute to address the recent public comment related to the proposed restroom location at Bicentennial Park. Iris and I have heard the concerns and we have met with the Rotary on site. Today's item is not to take action on improving proposed locations. However, Council does have the authority today to direct staff to explore proposed downtown locations further. Council will be asked to approve the John Champion Park location via approval of an interlocal agreement with Truckee Meadows Water Authority at your February 23rd council meeting. And with that, before I turn it over, I see Mr. Shipman has his hand raised, so I will do that before we turn it over to Iris, and I'll share my screen at that point.
I think he just left it on before.
Does Mr. Shipman have anything that he needs to address before we have Iris present?
I think he just left his hand up.
Okay, great. Yeah. Then I will mute myself, share my screen, and I'll turn the floor over to Iris.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Iris Jaylee Papard, the Executive Director for One Truckee River, OTR, as I will refer to it. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. OTR is a nonprofit that manages a coalition of public and private partners who work together to strive for OTR's mission within the complexity of their own agency priorities to ensure a healthy and thriving river connected to its community. Listed on the screen are some of our partners. Our guiding force is our Partnership Council with 22 local agencies represented that meet quarterly, and our Board of Directors, 7 dedicated residents that meet monthly. Our staff efforts focus on supporting partners to do more for the river by sparking collaboration and supporting the fundraising process for implementation. Okay, next slide. Since 2013, over the course of many years, the OTR partnership developed through conducting many collaborative in-depth meetings, retreats, and forums focused on the challenges and opportunities that exist connected to the river, with local agencies, nonprofits, and residents involved. In 2016, the OTR management plan was approved by the 3 jurisdictions and the Western Regional Water Commission. The partnership created 4 goals. Goal 1 is focused on water quality, Goal 2 on a thriving environment, Goal 3 on education, and Goal 4 on long-term management. At the end of 2017, OTR's Partnership Council prioritized 9 out of 103 action items in the OTR management plan. The next 3 slides, the next 3 slides show those action items per goal. Goal 1 has 4 action items prioritized, listed. For the sake of time, I will not give an update on each one, but you can find more information on our website at onetruckeeriver.org under our work. For Goal 1 here, I will mention the completion and approval by Nevada Division of Environmental Protection of the 2020 Integrated Source Water and 319H Watershed Protection Plan for public water systems at the Truckee River in the Truckee Meadows. The completion of this plan was led by the Truckee Meadows Stormwater Permit Coordinating Committee. It is a living document publicly available at Washoe County cleanwater.org listed on the screen. Under goal 2, we have 3 action items prioritized listed. For this goal, I will mention the completion of a multi-jurisdictional signage project that installed 250 plus signs, including maps, directions, rules, stewardships, and interpretive signs along the river, led by Nevada Land Trust. I will note here that there is no prioritized action item under goal 3 at this time. Goal 4 has 2 prioritized action items listed. For this goal, I will mention the completion of transitioning OTR from its past fiscal agent to its long-term home, the Truckee River Foundation. Next slide. Now I will share details on action item 1.3.c, focused on increasing public restrooms along the Truckee River. Out of this action item, the Truckee River Restroom Project was developed. Factors that move the OTR partnership to prioritize the project include concern of human impact on water quality and the growing recreational need along the river, with our region forecasted growth of 125,000 plus new residents by 2035. OTR recognizes that public restrooms are a basic building block of a complete functioning public park. By improving public space for everyone, restrooms build community resilience, increase urban renewal, and improve public health. OTR's vision is to connect residents and visitors to unparalleled opportunities for recreation. Access to public restrooms support this vision. In 2018, OTR's Housing and Sanitation Working Group that included representatives from the 3 jurisdictions, Community Foundation of Northern Nevada, Downtown Reno Partnership, and local residents researched restroom options and conducted multiple interviews with local city staff and elected officials. The project gained a lot of engagement and financial support from our partners and collaboration with other relevant regional stakeholders listed on the screen. In 2019, the project's phase 1 to 4 was proposed with the goal to add 2 new public restrooms, an increase from 9 to 19 along the Truckee River stretch from Lake Tahoe to Pyramid Lake, which includes proposed locations in the City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County. Listed on the screen are public meetings where the project was presented and steps forward approved. Support letters from the project's first restroom installation was collected by local businesses, including the Courtyard Marriott and Reno Aces. In 2020, the City of Reno coordinated with Truckee Meadows Water Authority to install the project's first new public restroom along the river at Broadhead Park in August 2020. Data was collected a month before and since its installation to determine the successes and challenges of the project. From August 2020 to September 2021, there have been 12,112 flushes at the restroom, which is an average of 30 flushes per day. Through December 2021, from agencies that maintain the loo, there have been 7 minor incidences that involve vandalism, including graffiti and issues with the door lock. All minor damages were quickly repaired. For the City of Reno, during the 18th month period, there were 15 calls for service in Broadhead Park, in which one of the following keywords was included in the call details: Portland loo, restroom, bathroom, or toilet. The total estimated staff time the calls required represents approximately 0.1% of the city's total staff duration over the 18 months. Overall, community response for the new restroom facility has been very positive, and the metrics show that phase 1 has been successful. With support from Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, the second new restroom is proposed for installation at John Champion Park in the City of Reno. And then, as Jamie mentioned, OTR applied for funding for the third installation at Bicentennial Park following City of Reno guidance. This has been my 6th public presentation on the restroom topic, and we have received public input that moves me to propose that the City of Reno pause proposing Bicentennial Park as a third location to install a public restroom and give more time for an in-depth public input process pertaining to an installation in downtown Reno. Along with the public meetings, OTR has been focusing on gaining more public input about the effort to share with the jurisdictions with an online survey that is active now. And I encourage everybody that would like to take it and just go to our homepage and it will pop up. The survey results as of February 7th had 154 responses. One question the survey asked, do you support public restrooms along the Truckee River? 92% said yes and 8% said no. Another survey question was to rank locations for public restrooms along the river. The 3 most popular locations as of February 7th were in this order: City Plaza, John Champion Park, and Mayberry Park. More City of Reno public meetings where the project has been discussed and will be discussed is listed on the screen. On the screen are regional plans that mention a need to increase infrastructure, public restrooms, and/or public facilities, including OTR's management plan, the updated City of Reno master plan, Reimagine Reno, the Truckee Meadows Trails Plan, the Washoe County Regional Transportation Commission Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan, and the Nevada Statewide Comprehensive Outdoor Recreational Plan. Recently, the project secured letters of support from leaders within the Tahoe Pyramid Trail and Truckee Meadows Trails effort. Now I'm going to share information about another OTR priority under Goal 1, focused on vegetation management along the Truckee River to improve healthy functioning of the river system. In 2020, OTR under Nevada Land Trust received funding to develop a framework plan to support coordinated vegetation management efforts in the Truckee Meadows from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. The planning efforts are focused on the middle urbanized reach of the river from Crystal Peak Park to Vista Narrows. The planning process started in 2020 by creating a technical working group and interviewing other stakeholders listed on the screen. In November 2021, a draft framework plan was presented, and now we're in the process of receiving input from the draft plan from the technical working group and stakeholders. The draft plan was directly guided by technical working group members and stakeholders' input and feedback gained in group meetings, informal discussions, and interviews. The draft framework plan aims to address the needs and challenges of multiple entities that manage vegetation along the Truckee River in the urban core. The draft plan is intended to serve as a resource for public and private partners and to inform coordinated vegetation management planning and implementation efforts in the future. It includes a regulatory framework, a compilation of regulations, codes, ordinances, permits, and guiding documents that are relevant to management of the river, and an implementation planning guide meant to be a step-by-step manual or a cookbook for planning an implementation level restoration project. And then currently through Truckee River funding, we are trying out that cookbook at Broadhead Park with a restoration planning effort underway now that will support the development of the overall draft framework plan. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, Iris, good job. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to send it back to Jamie Schroeder. Is there anything else you wanted to include?
No, Madam Mayor. We just open it up for any questions and discussion from the council.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we're going to start over with Councilman Reese. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I really appreciate the presentation. I know that a lot of work has gone into getting us to this place. Ultimately, I suppose I come back to Ms. Schroeder's original comment, which is, it sounds like there's not going to be much disagreement that we need restrooms downtown, especially along the river. I don't know that there's anyone who's not going to say fundamentally that's a good idea. Everyone poops everyone pees. We need restrooms for folks to be able to do that and to certainly protect the river environment and just the downtown environment in general. I think the only hesitation I have was about one of the locations. And I know Ms. Schroeder and her team have been really working hard to collect public input. The Rotarians, I know, are very concerned about the location that was thought to be placed in Bicentennial Park. And it sort of goes back to something, Madam Mayor, that you often say, which is that when something comes onto our agenda, it doesn't mean that we've already made a decision on that agenda item. It is for us to discuss that agenda item. And so for those in the community who are a little bit taken aback by the speed at which this appeared on our agenda, although I think, we all would agree it's been a long time coming. I just want people to understand that we take very seriously the public input component of our public meetings, and we really do want to hear from folks. I know we received a lot of emails from folks saying, yes, we absolutely want to see more public access restrooms downtown, but maybe some of them were concerned about the location. So ultimately, in the end, where I fall on this issue is simply that I believe that we've got to move forward with the recommendation that staff has made about John Champion Park. I think we can take a pause and really take the time to go out for some additional public input on the other locations. And I know when we do that, we'll come up with something that'll meet everyone's need in our community. The Portland Loos, I think they're pretty awesome. I've gone down and looked at the one that's at Broadhead a number of times. Councilmember Dewar, should be commended for all the work that she's put in to make certain that that particular one went in, and even just the design element to it, because I think there are a great design. I'm sure there are other vendors of restrooms, but I'm really going to be looking to defer to staff and Councilmember Dewar for her, real expertise. And I know Councilmember Breckus and Vice Mayor Jardin have also had a lot of input into this process, and I think everyone cares very much about maintaining the river environment. So awesome job. That's where my head is today.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Councilwoman Dewar, 3 minutes.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate to Iris and her entire team, her board of directors, certainly my commitment to this project. I think we've been in on this since 2016. I remember some of the original planning meetings where Councilmember Bobsian and myself were assigned to different teams on water quality and fundraising and everything to get this thing off the ground. I'm really pleased with the progress you've made overall. The Portland Loos, of course, but also this vegetation management plan. I think that really needs to move forward. The fact that we have to fine tune a site is not a game showstopper in any way, in my perspective. It is proper that we seek public input on locations. People, Broadhead Park was controversial when it was getting going. We had to really evaluate that. There was a lot of concerns about public safety issues. It was on the path. It was originally going to be on a Tumwa property. Then it was moved to a city property. I mean, even just the fine tuning of where in a 100 feet section of path the Portland Loo should be. I also want to mention that when we started, Portland Loo was sort of the industry leader on this kind of bathroom that is set up to be easy to clean, easy to maintain in terms of, I'll just say surveil, pretty resistant to graffiti. The wash station is outside, that kind of thing. But there are other entries into this market, apparently, and I want us to keep looking at those. And so I wanted to just reiterate my confidence in the One Truckee River project. My appreciation to Jamie Schroeder for being very focused on public input. I mean, she came and said, let me go over the public input plan for the next Portland Loo. Here's what we're thinking. It looked like she had thought it through really well. So I think it just speaks to the issue that no matter whether it's Broadhead Park, Champion Park, downtown Reno, there's always going to be opinions about locations. But what I would like to not see is to put to bed the questions about the viability of a bathroom. I mean, families, we the mayor has certainly said it's a top priority to make the river a place that people go, to make sure it's a centerpiece of our city. If you don't have a place to go to the bathroom, it is not a centerpiece. And I'd be interested in hearing at some point, maybe not on this round, but from Jamie, do we have challenges at other bathrooms? I don't know that any specific issues are attending to Portland Loos versus our standard bathrooms. I think they all need maintenance, update, repair, graffiti addressing, and those kind of things. So at some point, it'd be helpful, Jamie, to address, the outreach component and how our bathrooms in parks in general, how do you handle them? What are the issues? So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Dorr. Appreciate that. Okay, who else? Councilwoman Breckus?
Yeah.
Go ahead, and then I'll go to Councilman Delgado.
Yeah, I think this issue has taken up a lot of focus in the last 4 months. I think this is I know this is the fourth time I've heard Ms. Peppard's presentation. And, we have a plan, that's the vision. This is really a minor implementation step to that, and it's a component of that. And I'm sensing exasperation on, the Reno administrative ability, policy ability now, because it's us, to decide where to put the next bathroom. I mean, I think Champion is a good option, but if you look between Champion and Barbara Bennett Park, which admittedly is on the other side of the river, we need to fill in the gap. Let's do it. Let's not put it in on pause. Let's not take surveys. This first came to me and my attention out of the blue at Tumwa about 3 months ago, when my two colleagues people had reached out to them, Ms. Jardin and Ms. Dewar, about concern about a location where it had first been spec'd out, which I think was West Street Plaza area. And, I liked that location. I thought it was okay. And then I think there were some downtown residents who were concerned about it. I think we need a bathroom in the downtown area. And then, staff said, well, what do you think about Bicentennial Park? I said, well, I see Barbara Bennett's park right across the river. I don't know. Is it fit? It's kind of narrow. And they actually spray painted right next to one of the art pieces where they thought it would go. I went, well, whatever, it's closer. Now people, the Rotary, is concerned about that. And I think it was a little bit nudged in there. So in my view, I've been very adamant that we need a plan for Civic Plaza. That's why I did not support, well, it didn't come to us. The manager spent it out of contingency, the Space Whale acquisition. I said, what's the big plan? It's also a parking lot. Then there was skateboard things. And, I think that whatever the plan's going to be, and I hope we will progress toward a plan, a bathroom needs to be a part of it, because that's where a lot of people are hanging out. There's a lot of people out there. And we took a punt on putting a bathroom into this building that, like McKinley, could have been open 40 hours a week for the public to use. McKinley is an open bathroom facility for the public to walk in, and this could have been. So somewhere, I think, I don't even care if it's in one of our parking garages. We need a bathroom in this corridor, and we need to really, in my view, ask the manager to come back 3 options, pros and cons, for our next council meeting, and let Ms. Peppard move forward, because funding is eroding. Funding opportunities are eroding, and that's how I would like to see it. I'm also concerned, one of the ones I had concern about Bicentennial is, and the overall issue with Civic Plaza is, we really need to sketch out when Arlington's Bridge is going to go out of service and how people will be using this urban space during that time. Because we know when Virginia Street Bridge was down, it was almost a 2-year process. And so it really changed the dynamics. So I'd like to get a bathroom in on this north side of the river very soon. Somehow fill in the gap from McKinley to John Champion. Not go out and do surveys and more input. Let's just propose 3 options that we're considering, and let the public come down to the meeting and tell us where they should be. I think we need to not be filtering this off to other bodies. I think we need to move forward, progress. It's something that's not thriving. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I do apologize for going over, I think, 35 seconds on our time standards.
Okay, thank you. Jamie, just a couple questions. One of the things I think sometimes before we sort of jump into permanent commitments is, looking at pilot projects, obviously, even like certain infrastructure projects, like with the cycle track and things like that, that we can kind of do some legwork in pilot projects to also see the outcomes before we spend a lot of money and see if they're working, right? So is that something that you've also talked about? I think what I would say is everyone agrees that we should have restrooms down there. That's what I've heard. It's just sort of the idea of where to put them. And I think there's a lot of good options, and I think there's a lot of valid concerns, especially when we get into the bridge reconstruction and all of that. I think all that needs to be taken into consideration. But can you tell me kind of what the plan you're sort of thinking out? Because and how easy is it to remove one once you put it in? Because maybe it needs to be in a different location. What something like that looks like?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So first, I need to ensure that I get on the record that we greatly appreciate the partnership that we have with One Truckee River and Truckee Meadows Water Authority, given our department's constrained resources. You all know that the Parks and Rec Department is, challenged with having funding and enough staff to be able to maintain and operate all of the existing infrastructure that we have. And so without the help of OTR and TUMWA, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation about restrooms along the river. I feel like this restroom project is successful due to the fact that OTR and TUMWA have been able to secure funding to allow these restrooms to have attendants, which monitor these restrooms regularly. In our parks, to sort of touch on Councilmember Doerr's question earlier about how the restrooms are in our parks throughout the city. This year we've just seen a spike in vandalism. We're not quite sure why it's happening, but it's definitely happening. And so a plus to the Portland Loo design is, in fact, that it deters the success of vandalism occurring. In the agreement that council approved for Broadhead Park, which we did treat as our pilot project because it was definitely a new way of thinking for us in Reno, there is a clause in there that states that if the restroom were to become a nuisance, we would request that Truckee Meadows Water Authority remove it out of that location. That same clause will be in the John Champion interlocal agreement as well. We would certainly take a look before going to the final measure of removing a restroom, seeing if there are things that we could do beforehand to correct any issues that were happening. And I feel pretty confident that if we were to see challenges arise, that Iris and I would be able to put our heads together and bring in experts that would help us try to problem solve before we hit that last,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. I think you answered that very well, Jamie. I would say this too, looking at the Disneyland effect, and whenever I was in Washington, D.C., they literally have trash cans like every few feet and restrooms. And quite honestly, you can really see the impact when people have accessibility. And I think we need to do a better job of really, getting more for people to utilize, because we're really trying to get people to come down. We're trying to get people to use the river. The other thing I think, Iris, that we really haven't talked about much, and I know probably because it's not very popular, but I think people need to understand what that looks like. And that is that feces map. And when I see that, I get very concerned. But the good news, what I'm hearing, is that people are reaching out saying, listen, we're not opposed to restrooms. And things like that. And I get that, right? But I do think we got to be sensitive to where we place them. Obviously, some might do better than others. We won't know unless we try. And so that's where I was just saying, how versatile can we be? So, okay. All right. Madam Clerk, do you just need acceptance of this report? What do you need from us?
Yes, Madam Mayor, or if Jamie needs staff direction and she's clear on what she
Okay, we
needs.
just need to give Jamie some support. Okay. With that being said,
Madam Mayor?
There
Go
you have
ahead.
about 3 people with hands up.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Jordan.
Thank you very much. I too just wanted to chime in and thank Iris and her entire team for all the work they've done. She has done just a tremendous amount of outreach. So is Jamie. I know city staff has spent probably far more time on this restroom discussion than they would care to. But it is important, and I think all the voices and their concerns need to be heard and certainly validated. I do think as you get into the nuance of where in Bicentennial it may be placed, and I know we're not at that point today. We are not approving that today, but as staff, maybe there is some opportunity to look again at a location near that, but maybe not exactly where it had been sketched out. And then, it is an art park area. Can you do any sort of art on the exterior of the loo itself, or is that prohibited? And just for clarity's sake, the city didn't take a punt on the restroom at City Hall. We dedicated that $300,000 to Midtown art and benches and that sort of improvements during the RTC Virginia Street project. So we did not take a punt. We voted to allocate those dollars to that project. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Reese.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion, but I didn't want to truncate my colleague, Councilmember Dewar or Councilmember Breakfast, it looks like. So I can wait and we'll come back around.
Okay, thanks so much. Councilwoman Breckus.
No, I would like, I'll await Mr. Reese's motion because I would like a motion of some specific guidance to staff. I mean, I know we're getting John Champion one back, but on this question of where to put the one that is to the west of John Champion Park, I'd like to give them some clear direction rather than just, 7 people's comments if we all comment. That's just what I'd like to see. So I am supportive of a motion that's more narrow than what is in the staff recommendation of just accepting the report. And I'll wait to hear his motion. Thank you.
Councilwoman Dewar, go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to thank Jamie and Iris for again reminding us that the Broadhead was a pilot project. There was a lot of skepticism going into it. Is it going to work? Is it going to stay good? Is it going to be harmed? Are people going to do bad things there? Is it going to actually address some water quality concerns, which I think you've started laying out metrics, which is important to evaluate. It's not just what we think about it, but do we have some hard data to show one thing or another? And some of the hard data that we're seeing is, I think we're putting to bed some of the fears about having bathrooms along the river, that those aren't coming to fruition. I would love to see, in terms of high on the priority list, you've already listed the downtown city plaza. That is a huge gathering spot. And sometimes when there's big events there, they'll bring in porta potties. But a lot of times there's smaller events that are just, let's say, an hour or a small performance or a gathering. And I just think somewhere, maybe over where those vehicles are parked and there's sort of an abandoned stage, it might be great to have a bathroom if there's one that can be located near an existing sewer pipe. I just think, I'd love to see when we come back that we take a hard look at that. And that would sort of demonstrate our commitment. There's also a lot of eyes on that location, whether they're all looking down from City Hall or people milling or going to the parking lot. It's a very busy, active space, and even more so now that we've put in some more activation items. So I don't know that we have to redesign the whole plaza to get a bathroom there, but think about it. But I would love to see one in that general area. So I'm just excited to see that we're moving forward and we're not stopping. So thank you.
Okay, I'm going to send it to Councilman Delgado.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And one of the things I want to make sure we kind of address too is, and I believe Councilwoman Dewar touched on this lightly, is, I frequent the river with my twins, my kids, and it's really important when I go down there that there's an opportunity to take our little ones to use the restrooms and it's not too far out of sight. We have a huge, I know the council and the mayor, of course, we're in big supporter of bringing more residents in our downtown core. And so it's just, us thinking out into the future about convenience versus inconvenience and what that's going to do for a lot of our businesses that we're bringing downtown as well to enjoy our beautiful river. But for me, a big inconvenience with 2 kids walking the river, then having to go into a business, say, can I use your restroom? And taking both of them inside with me, right? It'd be a lot easier to be able to utilize the river, making it user friendly and having the convenience, and then also addressing that. Hopefully, there's enough room in there to be able to take little ones in there to so they can take care of business. But just again, the family piece is a huge one, especially as we start to see a lot of our young families coming into our downtown core. So thank you.
Great comments. Okay, go ahead, Councilman Reese.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I would like to move to accept staff report, but to direct staff to conduct more research and seek additional public input on the proposed downtown public restroom location to return to us within the next 60 days.
All right, I think you did a good job. Thank you so much. So I have a motion, and I believe I had a second from Councilman Breckus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, great job. Thank you so much, Jamie and Iris. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's look at our agenda. I would like the council to look at the agenda. It is going on noon. We can push forward, or would you like to take a lunch break?
I have the one thing left beyond appointments. Just the one presentation.
So I think
RTC.
I'm fine with going.
Yeah,
keep going.
forward.
You
Maybe
guys are
just a short break, like a 10-minute, just to.
So why don't, actually, we should do that. Let's do 15 minutes. So let's come back at 12:15. Everyone get up, get something to drink, go to the restroom, and then we'll be back, and then we'll get through the rest of the agenda. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.
How does stormwater impact a city? All properties in Reno influence the way stormwater impacts our city. The biggest impact a property has is how much hard or impervious surface, such as pavement and rooftops, a property has. Hard surfaces put more demand on our stormwater infrastructure because stormwater that runs over hard surfaces does not soak into the ground and carries litter and pollutants along with it into local streams. Reno has infrastructure like collection drains, culverts, and pipes that safely channel the running water away from properties and streets and into our waterways. If stormwater runoff from properties is not properly managed, it can impact our city in two ways. It can cause flooding of roads and properties, making them unsafe to use, and it can degrade our local water quality and the beauty of our city, because if left unmanaged, stormwater spreads pollution into our streets and waterways. This is why it's so important that Reno manage stormwater with adequate infrastructure, staff, and educational programs to keep our city safe and beautiful.
Hi, I'm Reno Fire Chief Dave Cochran. Today we introduced Boston, our arson dog. Boston is our newest tool in investigating fires in Reno and Northern Nevada. He's the only arson dog in Northern Nevada. We're very excited to have him. He was sponsored by State Farm. He's literally been training for this his entire life. Our handler, investigator Sean O'Brien, went back to New Hampshire for a month to train with Boston, and that was probably as much to train Sean as to train the dog. He arrived here in May, and he's going to be a valued member of our department for many years to come.
Hi friends, Reno City Council member Devin Reese, and I want to share some awesome news with you about the newest member of the Reno Fire Department. His name is Boston, and he's an incredible arson dog. Can't wait for you to meet him. Can't wait for him to serve the city of Reno. I'm sure you'll get to have the opportunity and share some smiles with him too. Have a great one, Reno.
What is stormwater? Stormwater is water from rain or snow that does not soak into the ground and becomes surface runoff. It is not the same as wastewater or sewer, which is the dirty water that leaves your home after you have used it. Stormwater flows over surfaces like streets, parking lots, roofs, driveways, and sidewalks, and is conveyed into the city's storm drain system and flood control facilities. Stormwater is of concern for two main reasons. One is, stormwater can cause flood damage where there are not adequate storm drain facilities. And two is, water pollution and potential contaminants that stormwater carries. As stormwater flows over hard, also called impervious surfaces, it collects trash, sediment, and chemicals like motor oil and fertilizer that can pollute local waterways, such as the Truckee River. A common misperception about stormwater is that it is treated and cleaned up just like your wastewater is before it enters a river. That is false. The stormwater collected through stormwater drains and pipes in the streets flows directly into creeks, streams, rivers, and lakes without treatment. A properly functioning stormwater system can help prevent flooding and minimize pollution from entering our local waters. stormwater impact a city? All properties in Reno influence the way stormwater impacts our city. The biggest impact a property has is how much hard or impervious surface, such as pavement and rooftops, a property has. Hard surfaces put more demand on our stormwater infrastructure because stormwater that runs over hard surfaces does not soak into the ground and carries litter and pollutants along with it into local streams. Reno has infrastructure like collection drains, culverts, and pipes that safely channel the running water away from properties and streets and into our waterways. If stormwater runoff from properties is not properly managed, it can impact our city in two ways. It can cause flooding of roads and properties, making them unsafe to use, and it can degrade our local water quality and the beauty of our city, because if left unmanaged, stormwater spreads pollution into our streets and waterways. This is why it's so important that Reno manage stormwater with adequate infrastructure, staff, and educational programs to keep our city safe and beautiful.
Hi, I'm Reno Fire Chief Dave Cochran. Today we introduced Boston, our arson dog. Boston is our newest tool in investigating fires in Reno and Northern Nevada. He's the only arson dog in Northern Nevada. We're very excited to have him. He was sponsored by State Farm. He's literally been training for this his entire life. Our handler, investigator Sean O'Brien, went back to New Hampshire for a month training with Boston, and that was probably as much to train Sean as to train the dog. He arrived here in May, and he's going to be a valued member of our department for many years to come.
Hi friends, Reno City Council member Devin Reese, and I want to share some awesome news with you about the newest member of the Reno Fire Department. His name is Boston, and he's an incredible arson dog. Can't wait for you to meet him. Can't wait for him to serve the city of Reno. I'm sure you'll get to have the opportunity and share some smiles with him too. Have a great one, Reno.
What is stormwater? Stormwater is water from rain or snow that does not soak into the ground and becomes surface runoff. It is not the same as wastewater or sewer, which is the dirty water that leaves your home after you have used it. Stormwater flows over surfaces like streets, parking lots, roofs, driveways, and sidewalks, and is conveyed into the city's storm drain system and flood control facilities. Stormwater is of concern for two main reasons. One is, stormwater can cause flood damage where there are not adequate storm drain facilities. And two is, water pollution and potential contaminants that stormwater carries. As stormwater flows over hard, also called impervious surfaces, it collects trash, sediment, and chemicals like motor oil and fertilizer that can pollute local waterways, such as the Truckee River. A common misperception about stormwater is that it is treated and cleaned up just like your wastewater is before it enters a river. That is false. The stormwater collected through stormwater drains and pipes in the streets flows directly into creeks, streams, rivers, and lakes without treatment. A properly functioning stormwater system can help prevent flooding and minimize pollution from entering our local waters. does stormwater impact a city? All properties in Reno influence the way stormwater impacts our city. The biggest impact a property has is how much hard or impervious surface, such as pavement and rooftops, a property has. Hard surfaces put more demand on our stormwater infrastructure because stormwater that runs over hard surfaces does not soak into the ground and carries litter and pollutants along with it into local streams. Reno has infrastructure like collection drains, culverts, and pipes that safely channel the running water away from properties and streets and into our waterways. If stormwater runoff from properties is not properly managed, it can impact our city in two ways. It can cause flooding of roads and properties, making them unsafe to use, and it can degrade our local water quality and the beauty of our city, because if left unmanaged, stormwater spreads pollution into our streets and waterways. This is why it's so important that Reno manage stormwater with adequate infrastructure, staff, and educational programs to keep our city safe and beautiful.
Hi, I'm Reno Fire Chief Dave Cochran. Today we introduced Boston, our arson dog. Boston is our newest tool in investigating fires in Reno and Northern Nevada. He's the only arson dog in Northern Nevada. We're very excited to have him. He was sponsored by State Farm. He's literally been training for this his entire life. Our handler, investigator Sean O'Brien, went back to New Hampshire for a month training with Boston, and that was probably as much to train Sean as to train the dog. He arrived here in May, and he's going to be a valued member of our department for many years to come.
Hi friends, Reno City Council member Devin Reese, and I want to share some awesome news with you about the newest member of the Reno Fire Department. His name is Boston, and he's an incredible artist.
12:16, and it appears that everyone is present at reconvene. We're opening item D3, which is a presentation and potential approval of an RTC FY23 plan.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So at this time, Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment?
Madam Mayor, we have no comment that was received through correspondence. If we have any participants in the room that would like to speak on this item at this time, please raise your hand. Additionally, we will be moving over Bill Thomas and Brian Stewart from the RTC for a presentation.
All right, fantastic. And I see Carrie Koski on the board. Hello, good afternoon, my friend. And then Bill Thomas, great to have you. Excited that you're here. And then we have Brian. All right. Okay, so I guess I'm going to start with Carrie. I'm going to hand it over to you, and then you can hand the floor to whoever else is coming next.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So good afternoon. For the record, this is Carrie Koski, your city engineer. I am very pleased to bring to you today this presentation and the approval of the potential approval for the Regional Transportation Commission fiscal year 2023 interlocal cooperative agreement that authorizes the RTC program of projects within the city of Reno. And as we I'd like to say that today I have here with me Mr. Bill Thomas, our Executive Director for the Regional Transportation Commission, and Mr. Brian Stewart. I've got a short presentation for you, Madam Mayor and Council, that has about 10 slides, and I'll be covering basically what the fiscal year regional road projects are within the city of Reno, what the allocated funding is, and the selection process. So if you don't mind, I'd like to share my screen. Okay. All righty. My screen is showing, I take it? Okay, great. So before I get started, just a little brief reminder about what the regional roads are in the city of Reno. The regional road network in the city of Reno consists of about 750 total miles of roadway, and our regional roads are our major arterials, collectors, and some industrials, and those are approximately 30% of the total miles. The The interlocal agreement that I'm bringing to you today specifies the responsibilities for the delivery of the projects, provides authorization for the RTC to use eminent domain if necessary, and identifies the program of projects. So, program of projects. This slide represents the categories of projects that's in the fiscal year program of projects. The City of Reno staff and the RTC staff have been working together over the past year to bring you this very exciting program of projects. It totals over $201 million, with the RTC fuel tax revenues being the most significant source of funding. The 6 categories of projects are the preventative maintenance, which is about $6.5 million of funding this year. And that's just basically preserving our road system, keeping the seals and the patching on our roadway network to keep our network in great condition. The corrective maintenance, we've got $2 million allocated for funding, and that restores the pavement surface. It's like overlays. Traffic signal improvements are new signals, upgrade to signals, and that's $6.5 million allocated. The intelligent system, transportation system management, that's like new technologies, conduit for new technologies. We've got $3.5 million allocated this year. The next category, the roadway rehabilitation, you're all familiar with the roadway reconstruction projects, is $14 million. And then other major projects, we have, we're recommending for starting the design so we can be eligible for all of the federal funding that is coming available. We have $123.4 million in projects. There is one other major project that the RTC has on their list that is not in Reno. It is in Sparks. It's the Pyramid Highway, and it's $45.1 million. But all in all, the Reno-based projects are estimated to be about 71% of the program for fiscal year 2023. In the next slides, I'm going to go into brief detail on how the projects are selected and what the projects are. So the selection process for the preventative maintenance and the corrective are data-driven. It's a data-driven process. We use the pavement condition. We look at the patching requirements. Those selections are typically done in February of March each year. So we don't get ahead of ourselves because we want to make sure that we are coordinating with other projects and we don't have to move one project on or off. The traffic signals and the information and the ITS projects are, they go through a little bit different selection process. There is a subcommittee of regional members that they look at the requests from the Reno hotline, or excuse me, the RTC hotline, Reno Direct, any special requests that come in for traffic signals. And they also look at the previous traffic studies. Then they take those and they identify if they meet the warrants and they prioritize those. Any money left over is used for intersection improvements like cabinets, detection, battery backups. The ITS systems, that same committee prioritizes those, and they focus primarily on the regional traffic signal connectivity. And right now, the highest priority is to place conduit for the traffic signal fiber interconnect that where the signals are currently on radio or cellular. Roadway rehabilitation is the next category, and this category we do have projects identified. That and the type of work that we do on the rehabilitation projects is replacement of deteriorated pavements, curbs, gutters, new sidewalks. Replacement of sidewalks, ADA pedestrian improvements. The selection of these is data-driven as well. The roadways that have a pavement condition index of less than 55 with the highest traffic volumes have the highest ranking, and they are candidates for the rehabilitation. So the roadways with the highest ranking this year that we would like to move forward to design and construction in 2023. The first one is Enterprise Road, which is Valley Road from Valley Road to Evans Avenue, is located in Ward 4. It's a regional collector, and our estimated construction cost is around $600,000. The next one is Sutro Street, which is Audi Boulevard to the north and 9th Street to the south. It's a regional arterial. Its estimated construction cost is around $2.3 million. Then the third project is Holcomb Lane, which is from Liberty here at the north to Burns Street to the south. That is a regional collector. Its estimated cost is around $3.5 million. And the last but not least is Arrow Creek Parkway. It's on the right-hand side of my slide, and it's down in the South Meadows area. It's from South Virginia to Rubblestone, which is in Ward 2, and it is also a regional arterial. Its estimated cost is around $2.6 million. So all in all, if you recall, the total allocated funding for the rehabilitation was around $14 million. And the Reno-based projects are $9 million, or about 64% of that. So now I'm very, very excited to talk about these, as the mayor knows how passionate I am about the bridges. We've got 4 major projects, and 2 of them are bridges this year. We've got approximately $123.4 million in our 4 major projects. These projects, as you recall, go through the extensive public process and the review of the agencies to, and they're on the 2050 RTP plan, and they're also on the 5-year regional transportation improvement plan. So there's extensive process in order to get these projects on the list, and that's how they are selected. The slide here shows the 4 general locations. The left side shows the 2 bridges, Sierra Street, and the right side shows the 2 capacity projects. And I'm going to drill down or zoom in a little bit more so you can see better where those are located on the next slide. So the Keystone Avenue Bridge replacement, that Keystone Avenue Bridge was built back in 1966. It's a 400-foot concrete bridge with 2 piers. It's got a very low sufficiency rating, which makes it eligible for replacement and eligible for federal funding. So we're estimating this particular project to be around $47 million. And if we move forward with the design, the preliminary design, we're estimating we could potentially start construction in 2026. Then the next bridge is the Sierra Street Bridge, which was built in 1937. It's a 140-foot bridge with 2 piers, another very low sufficiency rating. And the estimated cost for this one is $29 million. We move forward with the preliminary designs. This one would be estimated to start construction in 2028. Now for the capacity projects, the Pembroke Drive, Veterans Parkway to McCarran would include capacity improvements that would be widening from 4 lanes to widening from 2 lanes up to 4 lanes. It's approximately 1 mile long. We would look at safety improvements at the McCarran intersection, and it would create a viable truck route connector from Veterans Parkway to McCarran Boulevard, which is highly needed. The estimated cost on this one is $21.8 million. And if we start our preliminary design, the construction date would be in 2025. Finally, that brings me to the last major project, which is the South Virginia Street widening from Longley Lane to I-80. This project would include additional lanes northbound and southbound in this section, intersection safety improvements, and the estimated cost is around 25.6 million. And this one here would actually move to construction in 2023 if we start the design shortly here. That concludes my presentation and brings me to my staff recommendation. I would like to say a special thanks to Mr. Bill Thomas and Mr. Stewart for all of the work that their staff has done and our staff. I believe that we have worked together quite collaboratively, and we're very excited to bring these projects to you.
All right, as always, Carrie, amazing job. Good job. You have passion for this like no other. I love it. Okay, sending it over to Brian. Go ahead.
Hi, Brian Stewart, Director of Engineering for RTC. I just want to echo a great job from the city engineer there, Carrie, and we love working on these transportation projects. The heart and soul of our economy is the transportation system, and so it does become our passion as we look to make sure that infrastructure is in good condition for our residents of the region. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Thomas, is there anything you want to add?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. Not specifically, I do want to maybe make one point, which is I'm sure the council is well aware of the recent federal money that came from the bipartisan infrastructure bill. The way that's structured is the money is placed in different categories. And in order for that money to be spent in our community, we have to be sure that we provide projects in the categories that are relevant and fit. So, for example, and I think Carrie touched on it very well, the projects that we are going to put under the bridge program are the two projects that she mentioned. So it was intentional that we bring those forward, but it is important to remember that both of those projects being advanced is really dependent on our ability to get the federal money. I would, however, share with you that we've had very good success, and I'm very proud of it recently, in that we got $23 million in a grant for Pyramid Highway. And more recently, we got two grants that specifically affect the city of Reno, one of them being $7 million for the Arlington Street bridges. And then more recently, we got $300,000 to do a transit-oriented development planning for the south part of Virginia Street, basically extending down to the Summit Sierra Mall. So I consider those very big successes, given the fact that, you know, we are, if you look at the size of the number of people in our country and our scale and size, that we have been very well represented, and we will continue on your behalf to pursue those funds strategically and aggressively. So thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for allowing us to make this presentation, and we will certainly do our best to answer any questions you have.
All right, fantastic, and great to see you, Bill, an old familiar face or a new familiar face. All right, thank you so much. Always nice to have you both. Okay, with that being said, we're going to take some questions from council members. So who would like to go first? I'm going to go, it looks like Vice Mayor Jordan. No?
No,
Thought I saw your hand up.
I've been fully briefed by RTC multiple times and our staff multiple times, so my questions were asked and largely answered during those sessions. I will say the collaboration that the RTC has with our city leadership has, I would say, is much improved from years past. I think RTC sees clearly the needs of our city, and as is represented by the 70% that we are getting of these funds in the city of Reno, that shines through to the collaboration and the importance of the improvements of our roads that is commensurate with the expansion of our population. I think it's important that we look outside of maybe our own individual ward bubbles at times and see the needs of the region as a whole, which is the Regional Transportation Commission's goal. So I'm very proud of the work we've done there. Councilmember Delgado has been a true champion for his constituency and the city at large. And I appreciate Mr. Thomas's work along with Mr. Thornley and Carrie and everybody involved. Brian, you've been a tremendous asset as well. So thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, questions, hands raised. I see Councilwoman Breckus.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Koski, I have a question. You mentioned that industrial roads are eligible for this big pot of money that far outweighs the amount of money that the city can commit to the 70% of the local roads that we have to fund. Why are industrial roads eligible for this money, but not the roads that I hear from all my constituents in their neighborhoods?
There are, we've got about, I believe, around 40 miles of industrial roads in our program. And some of those industrial roads are also in the regional transportation plan. Not all of them are. I think it's around 20% of the roads of the industrials.
Who made that decision? Is that a council policy?
Those have been in the regional transportation plan for as long as I've been here. So I believe that those selections were made decades ago.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I'd really love to relook at that because I've been very, adamant that we're falling behind on our local roads because we have a smaller pot of money that's not growing like the regional one. And we need to expand the eligibility into the local roads. I never hear industrial users complain to me about the problems in their local roads, both conditions, safety, spot improvements, but I sure do hear residents. Can I ask also, in 2016, the POP that we approved showed all the money on the table for the year and each phase of each project in Washoe County, in Sparks, throughout the region. And I didn't see that this year. And I guess, Ms. Jardin says she's been briefed by RTC and that 70% is going to Reno, but I have no basis to understand that. I mean, I thought resources were fiscally constrained, but I can't see the snapshot of the overall commitment to know, what are the priorities and how are those rolling out? I saw $45 million for a new highway up in Sparks. And I think I counted 17 or 18 million for us on bridges, but I don't think those are local funds. So in past years, we've had a better snapshot of the whole region, the whole picture. On this one, we just seem to have the Reno attachment. And likewise, in 2018, the attachments showed for each area, category, the roads for preventative maintenance and so on. And I guess my question is, and we have strict time limits that limit our ability to engage in, these kind of decisions. So I'll kind of slow it down here is, I'm feel hampered in not having the big picture. And I'm also hampered in, if I get a second round to discuss, I want to understand the process for the POP because it's implementation of the plan and then the RTIP. But specifically on this, what is the bigger picture and why is there a change process in how much information is provided on the categories and the overall funding of the region?
I would actually like to defer to Mr. Thomas to talk about the POP.
Certainly, we're able to and willing to share as much information as the council wants. It's all public record in terms of the project approvals that the RTC board grants each year in terms of both the fuel tax and the sales tax, which they are designated by state law to be the decision makers on. And we can provide that to you. I think it's just a question when we do these individual presentations of what the bodies are looking for. So in this case, I think it was our belief that the interest of the council was to understand Reno's specific projects. But again, we can certainly provide to you, and I think we did some time back provide information that was forwarded to you in a memo that listed everything that was going on, but we're not hiding anything and we're glad to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Dorr.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here, folks. I always love this part of our year when we get to kind of do this dive. I have a few follow-up questions from what you said, Bill. You mentioned, right, sort of trailing, that the bridges were contingent on getting funding, it sounded like, from the infrastructure bill. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then is that a certain percent? Like, is that 20%, 50%, some other number of the cost?
Generally speaking, I think this type of grant, and it depends on which one we go for, but the kind of rule of thumb is 20% local, 80% federal.
80%.
But it has been varying, just to be open about it, with the COVID situation and the federal government's kind of approach. But that's probably the safest assumption, is 20% local.
We would be looking, in order to do the Keystone and the Sierra, we would need to get 80% of that funded from the federal government.
That's correct, based on the grant applications that we're planning on submitting for those two bridges.
And the grant, though, is it to the infrastructure bill programs that come out of that, or is this a separate transportation granting program?
It's a hard question to answer real succinctly, because the money's coming through the infrastructure bill, but some of it is flowing to programs that exist. For example, there's already a state program on bridges, but it's clear, at least in terms of the information we've read, that those are going to be substantially increased in terms of funding. So we're trying to position ourselves to make sure that, to the extent federal money flows into our state, either through grants or through formulas, that our county's in the best position to use that money for these two bridges that definitely need the resource.
Are those the only projects that were mentioned today that are dependent on federal funding? Are the others self-funded or gas tax funded, or?
The other two projects, I would say, are more likely to progress if we don't get federal funding with gas tax. It's just the bridges are very large projects, and at least as we're seeing it today, probably the most likely to get funded through the federal grant process.
You know, we have had a number of presentations by J.W. Hodge and our policy section about the infrastructure funds and about the ARPA funds. And he has been very clear with us that the awarding of these funds, every project's expected to have an overall sustainability component. And I'm wondering, for these bridges, I mean, maybe that's has to do with how you power the light for the bridge, or is it EV car friendly, or, you know, where does the trees fit in, or something. But have you heard that too? He has reiterated that numerous times to us.
I think it's safe to say that there are some desires from the federal level that are maybe a little unclear of exactly what that means. And we are constantly searching for the answers to the questions you're asking. Okay. You know, what will we need to put in these projects for them to be successful is what we're trying to get to.
Okay, because I'll end there and save my second round. So I have a few more questions. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Delgado, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And much like my colleague, Councilwoman Jordan, thank you for all those words. I also share the same. Thank you, Bill, and to all of our team. They've done remarkable work, especially in collaboration on a lot of these projects that are before us today. One that I want to speak to is the Pembroke project, which thank you so much for having this on our agenda for us to hopefully support and approve. We have a major issue. It's something that I highlighted when the Southeast Connector was developed and built. We have a 6-lane highway, and then we have basically the Southeast Connector and the 6 lanes over at McCarran. And what we have in between there is we have a huge dense community, multifamily apartment buildings on Mara Loma, with the park just across the street. We have buses, we have high pedestrian safety issues. And so the build out of Pembroke would alleviate so much of those safety concerns. I share that with all of you because I hear from our kids and our families all the time on Mara Loma. It's something that I know our PD, our code enforcement, RTC, we've all looked at in terms of signage and et cetera, but we all know clearly that the opportunity here is infrastructure. And Pembroke, though it is a county street, it's something I highlighted during the development of Southeast Connected, that needs to be developed and widened to support just the inevitable, and that's more traffic. So my hope is that that's something that we consider today. I met with a young woman about 2 weeks ago over at the donut shop off of Mara Loma and McCarran, and we just walked and we were highlighted all the safety concerns. And so again, we have hundreds of families in those apartment buildings. We have a large community down there on Mara Loma, and this will alleviate a lot of those issues in terms of people going back and forth from the Southeast Connector over to Mara to McCarran. Thank you for the time, Madam Mayor.
Okay, moving along. Any more questions?
I have a follow-up, but there might be someone else.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Dewar, 3 minutes.
Okay. All right. Bill, the reason I reserved to come back was I had a similar, wanted to thank you for including the Arrow Creek project. There's so many apartments that have gone up on Wedge Parkway, Arrow Creek, and then connecting up to Wedge, that that's a huge area of constituent concern for me now that it's getting built out. It's all of that part's in the city of Reno, whereas much of that area is county. But now it's landing on my lap. So I wanted to thank you, and I asked our staff if during the design of that, if we could make sure we have some public outreach, because is it extra through lanes going over to the freeway? Is it more turning lanes? Is it how Zolezi and Arrow Creek come together? That has already been redesigned once. So I'm hoping that you'll just include a public outreach component to that so we can really get the people over there, their issues and concerns and input. You guys are so smart. You've probably thought of all of this, but they always want to have an opportunity to have, some input. The second piece of that is that you guys did a fantastic job on the South Reno outreach for the South Reno program of projects. I mean, it crosses multiple wards, and it went from about the Pink Scholaries all the way down south of Mount Rose Highway and all the developments in there. And I wondered, are we still kind of checking the box for those projects that are going to be coming forward? Maybe they weren't discussed today, but maybe they're on a separate list of stuff we're working on, or maybe those are expected to be done by Reno. I'm not really sure, but if you could address that. And then the one last question I was going to ask you was about the detail. I too was kind of wondering when a lot of the staff reports said the list was still being developed. And I wondered if you were going to be coming back to us with the list of projects that fit in the first 4 categories that Carrie proposed. So a comment on Arrow Creek, that South Reno study, and then the POP or the detail.
Sure. If I may, Madam Mayor, I'm glad to respond to those, and I'm sure Brian and Carrie can jump in. Short answer, yes, on the public outreach. So we will be doing that to make sure that we understand what people's concerns are and how we might address those in the design. I believe, and certainly Brian or Carrie can confirm this, that the project on Virginia Street, where we're going to be widening between the freeway and Longley, was actually included and part of the study that was done that you referenced. So it's very much moving forward with the projects that were identified in that study. That one seems to be one that can have a very substantial impact to a lot of people, and one that we will proceed with, likely regardless of whether we get federal money, because that is such a high priority for us. And then I'm trying to remember what
just the detail when the POP, or the detail that goes with the first 4 categories of projects.
So that's a good question, because it is important to understand, not only for the council, but also for the community, that we use, for those types of projects, we use some objective criteria. And that is the status of the streets. In other words, Carrie pointed out that we start with, in a regional context, it's not just Reno or Sparks or Washoe County. We have all the technical staff get together and look at what's the state of the roads in the region.
The pavement index and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that leads to the project. So it's not like the 4 or 5 projects we've listed here today, because it is really driven by trying to balance the community's need to have well-maintained roads with the status of those roads. And I'd have to say, probably in general, just because of the age of the city, Reno probably has a larger percentage of older roads that probably needs some help. But I would qualify that by saying these are regional roads. And to get to Councilwoman Breckes' question, we will be coming back probably this next year with a conversation, not only with the Reno City Council, but also Spark City Council and Washoe County, to take a look at the regional street and highway program, which in part includes a conversation of what is regional. Because at the end of the day, we are a regional agency. We try really with strong effort to make sure everybody feels like we're representing them. And I would say that you have 2 very effective and respected representatives for the Reno City Council on the RTC board.
Madam Mayor?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Breckes.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear that Mr. Thomas says it's going to be a relook at the regional program. I've very much been struck for so many years by how insulated and isolated the decision-making of the transportation dollars is from, the governing body. And that makes it very hard for me to attest out in the community about what the transportation priorities are, how they're being addressing needs, and that's been a great challenge, because we have so much responsibility for so many roads that don't have any eligibility for the resources, set asides here or there. So I'm happy for that. But we're at the Reno City Council here. We're making a big decision with our interlocal agreement on how to go forward and spend dollars for the next year. And some of these projects are kickoff for many years. And I've always felt that this moment in time is way too late for the rest of us who aren't on the RTC to have a say in how our transportation priorities are established. And I don't think that's good for the citizens of Reno. I think, and Ms. Koski, you're new and our city manager's new, is it needs to be an internal, more long-term process with us. And I'll give an example here. If nothing else, because of the linkage to land use and the land use decisions that we make at this body every single meeting. And for example, I've had hard times making the findings on approvals out in Verdi, because I don't see that interchange, that overpass on. It was on when I came in 2012, it's disappeared. I don't see it on the POP. I have not been briefed on the RTP priorities. So, I feel disconnected from that conversation. Likewise, other projects that seem to have come on and disappeared, like the cycle track on Forest Street, where are those? I'd like to have someone sit down with me on the 5-year, any amendment to the 5-year, and let us understand where staff is leading and going to be advocating as the POPs are built. And that opportunity is always not available to us, and it's very problematic. Likewise, I appreciate Mr. Delgado saying this widening is very important for Pembroke, but I was here when the Southeast Connector was built, and I understood from our side as we approved it, it was going to be very limited access. So now we're widening a roadway across for truck traffic when we have land use of our own park on one side and land use of other possible parks on the other side. I don't see the land use in that for that priority. Also, the bridge, I'm very excited that Keystone Avenue Bridge and Sierra Bridge, may be eligible for the very narrow bridge funding set aside. But how does that work with the phasing of the Arlington Avenue Bridge? Those conversations have not been had with me. And I feel like we're in a very problematic teeing up of our city's priorities to then send over to RTC. It sounds like RTC is making the decisions with some input from staff, but it's not coming over to us. And I think we need to break that cycle very soon, very immediate. And I know, Ms. Koski, you're very passionate about making sure our needs are advanced, but I think we have still quite a bit of work to do. The POP should be,
Okay.
if I could just confuse.
You're over 5 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just that, like I said, we get such little time here to focus on our transportation priorities. And our people are paying so heavily at the pump for fuel, taxes to deliver that. Our safety is very disconcerting. Our air quality is deteriorating. And, I have a hard time out in the community explaining that transportation is working for our residents under this system. And I think that we really need to not have the POP be our biggest transportation priority discussion. It should ideally be a consent decision. Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. I know you really like to move these meetings along, so I will conclude there. And I just hope that next year we can have more conversations. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. That was a minute and 40 over. So I just want everyone to know I'm trying to get everyone's voice heard and making sure that everyone's getting their questions answered. Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Go right ahead. Councilwoman Jordan, please.
Thank you very much. I do have a couple of questions. Carrie, how long have you been with the city?
2004, 18 years.
Okay, and Mr. Thomas, how long were you with the city and now at RTC? How long have you been in public role?
21 years with the city of Reno and 2 stints.
And have at any time either of you not had an open door policy where someone could ask questions of you?
No, in fact, we encourage that.
So this assertion that somehow information isn't being shared, or it sounds more like maybe it's not being received or asked for, is an inaccurate one. And this continued narrative that somehow decisions are being made at a position of non-inclusion is, one, inaccurate, and two, as with all of our boards, we elect members to serve on those boards, which ultimately make those decisions at those boards. I would find it highly inefficient that we bring everybody's discussion points back to this body for further deliberation. We send members off for specifically that purpose. So I just wanted to confirm that the issues of accessibility and information are widely available and actually encouraged.
All right. I know I was a little confused, Carrie, because you're not new. You're sort of an expert in infrastructure. So, and I think you're one of the best. You're amazing. So thank you for all your hard work and your passion. And I never worry because I know you've got it handled. So we're super fortunate. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Do we have to accept this? What would you like to see from us, Mr. Thornley? Just accept the presentation?
It's a motion to approve the interlocal, and we do.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I have a motion from Vice Mayor Jordan. I have a second from Vice Mayor from Councilwoman Weber. All those in favor say aye.
Madam Mayor, can we have comment on the motion, please?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think that we can come together despite, how we view this process to improve it. And the RTIP, which is all the lists of all the projects, is adopted. It's a 5-year plan. The last one was adopted in 21. And of course, there's amendments. Those are done at RTC. It's an RTC document. But I would ask and expect that the RTIP and any amendments would come to the council and explain to the council what the priorities are, what we're thinking as we build forward to the mechanics of the POP. And I will let the body know, RTC is held to a very high standard of public engagement. Okay, they have a plan, the federal government requirements, just for public engagement. And so how is the POP, publicly available in those priorities created? They're not created here, maybe at the TAC. I think there's a fallback there. The RTC's public engagement plan, I think, is due for renewal. And I've been to their meetings in the past. And I think that the RTIP needs, the mechanics of the POP need to be very much more aligned with a public engagement process, because this is where the rubber hits the road. And also the drop off of the other plans and priorities without comment. And I'll reiterate again, the Verdi overpass, the Forest Street cycle track, and also the land use considerations of that Pembroke and the phasing of the bridges. Those are just 4 examples of transportation projects and questions that I think are outstanding. I think they're valid, and I think there should be a forum other than asking for a meeting with someone to have answers to. And I think there's other constituents in this community who also agree with that. So that example that I've elaborated upon is why I won't support the POP this year, because I believe that it is a very flawed process. Thank you. And I won't support the vote, Madam Mayor.
Okay. All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Motion carried. Okay. Moving right along. Thank you so much, Carrie. Amazing as always. Thank you, Bill. Really appreciate all your years of service, your hard work, and your accomplishments. And thanks to you, Brian. I know you guys are all doing a lot of work over there, so really appreciate when you come and give us great presentations and keeping an open door. That really makes a difference. And I know that anyone in the community can also reach out to you at any time. I've sent you guys several constituents, and you've met with all of them and have been very transparent and responsive. So I thank you so much for doing that, and we'll continue to keep that door open. So, all right, have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Okay, moving along, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're opening item G1, which is citizen appointments to boards and commissions. First item today is G11, which is the potential appointment to the Access Advisory Committee, which is your appointment.
Okay. Thank you so much. At this time, I understand we have other applications coming in, so we will put that on the next agenda. And moving along.
Okay, so we will open item G12, which is appointment to the Financial Advisory Board. It should be noted that the recommended appointment is Brian Wadsworth.
Okay, at this time, just hold on one sec. Madam Clerk, at this time, do you have any public comment?
Madam Mayor, we do not have any public comment.
Perfect. Okay, I believe that was Councilman Reese.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not prepared to move forward like you. I understand there are some folks who have applied recently, but maybe didn't make it to this agenda, so I'm going to hold it till next time. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect.
All right,
Madam
on
Clerk.
to our next item, G13, appointment to the Ward 2 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
All right, any comment on this item?
We have none, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, I would like to recommend for appointment Tyler Langdon and Stephen Schwartzer.
Second.
All right, good choices. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item H1 is City Council comments.
All right, any comments from council? Councilwoman Dewar or Councilwoman Weber, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just really excited about something that's happened in Ward 4, and I want to share it with you and thank our staff that made it possible. I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to show you something that was made by our folks, and I want to thank Natalie Lumbo and Don Dannon, our fabulous team from the Department of Communications, and also Tristan Guzman Walsh, and the liaison intern for community services, as well as Amy Pennington, community liaison. And they made this all happen. It took quite a few months to get this services directory for Ward 4 out to the community, Ward 4 residents. And it's awesome. They did a great job. And we've gotten lots of comments from our Ward 4 residents saying thank you for this project. And it's a services guide. So thank you so much for allowing me to share that with you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councilman Reese.
Madam Mayor, I'll be brief, but I do have one item, and it's, I suppose, not always my preference to box anyone in the ears, but I've heard from Local 39 that they have not yet been paid for their retro pay. So I guess I'm saying either A, I need Mr. Thornley to help this process get sped up, or B, we've got to agendize it. My concern here, Madam Mayor, is simply that the members of Local 39 are now like pushing 7 or 6 or 7 months to get retro pay. And that's just not right. Our employees deserve better. So, and I also am not being critical of some of our amazing staff on the HR side or even the budgetary side. But if our software is so cumbersome that we cannot figure out how to pay people timely, especially when retro happens, which is not often, but if our software doesn't allow us to do it easily or without, upsetting all sort of departments and requiring all manner of overtime, we have the wrong software, right? So maybe Mr. Thornley, you can just take my comment in the spirits intended, which is not wholly negative. I'm not angry, but I just know that our employees have been waiting an awful long time. I don't want them to wait any longer. Can you help us get to some resolution there?
Completely agree. We are in the process of working on it, and we will expedite to get it solved.
Can you also make sure, Mr. Thornley, that, and I wasn't aware of this, but can you make sure that Jerry Frederick with Local 39 knows that it's been brought to our attention now? And I don't know why this is. I had a similar kind of situation over at the RCVA that was very concerning, especially, in times of a pandemic when lots of other people in the household have lost their jobs and those types of things. So this gets very difficult and challenging for families and for our staff. So would you please make sure that you reach out to them and let them know this is a priority now? I don't know what the issue is, but we're happy to run it down. But that's our fault, and definitely apologize.
I will call Mr. Frederick this afternoon.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Councilwoman Dorr.
Yeah, thank you. I want to do a shout out too and inform the council of an upcoming meeting. The meeting is a community information meeting about the Virginia Range wild horses. And the meeting is tomorrow evening at 5:30. It's virtual. We have about 175 people already signed up at last count. I apply the principles of desiring public input on everything, whether it's things that working on in Ward 2 or wherever. I think it improves the process. The shout out is to Jackie Bryant, Noemi Gomez, John Flansburgh for really stepping up and working with 2 wild horse organizations, Wild Horse Connection and American Wild Horse, to really endorse a fencing plan that is very simplified from what you might think. And I also wanted to reach out to thank the county and NDOT at this point for working with us on that plan. NDOT is currently fencing a big portion of US 50 to keep horses on the north side, actually both sides, but off the very important highway. We have the same challenges at Geiger Grade, Toll Road, 395, so Old Virginia. And we're looking at Veterans Parkway. Our staff began this week a speed study on Veterans Parkway, the part that's in amongst the residents, not the Southeast Connector part, to look at whether we should lower the speed on that portion of road from 45 to 35 is the recommendation. We've heard it from many. So if you do get a chance, feel free to join us. We're going to have, I believe, Commissioner Lucy will be participating. We'll be having a pretty robust presentation and then a several-hour Q&A about what our city's doing, the county's doing, NDOT's doing, and what we're doing, more importantly, together to address these issues. So I just wanted to get that on everyone's radar, let you know. Some of you may have received letters over the last few months. One of the things that Ms. Bryant did was she had staff working with the nonprofits compile the actual numbers of horses hit in this region. And as I recall, this last year was 17. Of 25 horses that have been hit in the last 3 years, 21 have died. So they either died on impact or they had to be euthanized. So that's almost 90%. So pretty much it's terminal. We have a lot of ideas to help resolve this, but the biggest idea is to keep the horses off the streets, right? You can improve lighting, we can lower speeds, but just getting the horses off the streets seems to be the key component. So we'll be discussing that with the public. Some of these projects like that one, the fencing, a potential corridor that I've talked about a lot over the years, a potential wildlife preserve. These are the things we've been able to do, sort of low-hanging fruit, police patrols, speed limits, signage, all of that is pretty inexpensive. But we're sort of moving into things that are going to require more funding. Some of it may be eligible for ARPA infrastructure because it's about getting outdoors and public safety. So I just wanted to let everyone know. Thanks for the few minutes to inform you. But I'm just extremely grateful to the staff's work on that as well.
All right, thank you. Councilman Delgado.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to highlight to what you had spoke about earlier. Understanding across the nation here, we're looking at the possibility of mask mandates starting to come to an end. As the chair of the health district, I've been working closely with Kevin Dick and others. We're monitoring it as close as we can in anticipation that something may come about here in the state of Nevada. I just wanted to also reassure to everyone in the community that infrastructure has been developed. It doesn't mean that because masks are going to potentially come down that you shouldn't continue to be safe. And especially for those that want to wear masks, that we're also thoughtful, respectful, and support people that want to wear masks. It's very important that we have a community that respects that. And of course, if you're feeling symptomatic, like our team member earlier today, stay home and isolate yourself until you get tested, and please get tested. If you haven't been vaccinated, please get vaccinated. Many of the individuals that have passed or in the ERs are those that are unvaccinated, and that's just plain and straight data and science and true fact. And if you need to get vaccinated, please visit COVID19washoe.com or call 775-328-2427, or even go to vaccines.gov. But again, in anticipation across the nation, we're seeing a lot of this taking place. We're still, according to our COVID meter, we are at very high. And so, again, be thoughtful, be respectful, think about the others, especially if you're immunocompromised. Please continue to wear a mask. And we're just as we start to see things change across the nation, we're trying to prep up for it.
And that's such good messaging. Seriously, I like that. I think that if these mask mandates come down, that everyone has got to be respectful for those that choose to still wear them. I know, especially for, people that are immunocompromised, they're still going to want to wear them. So it looks different for everyone else. Someone might feel comfortable being in a room of people or at work where others may not. Be respectful of that. And also I would ask them, do you mind? Sometimes it's good to check in with others and not just thinking of yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I really want to say thank you to this council for being so caring and sensitive to some of the situations we've been through at City Hall, losing one of our colleagues. And, so I just want to say that we're not out of this yet. And many people need to realize that we still have to protect each other, and that's the right thing to do. And even though sometimes it might not be popular. So Councilman Delgado, thank you for your words of wisdom and all your work with this, because it's really important. We still have to be very, very cognizant of what's, happening. So good job. I would just say, Mr. Thornley, can I just add one thing? Because I don't want to forget, and I want to make sure it ends up on an agenda fairly soon, is regional and operational improvements regarding fire service in the region. So if you could please put that on for me, that would be great. I appreciate it. And Councilwoman Vice Mayor Jordan, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody in their comments and the great updates. There's some, Councilman Delgado is spot on with his comments about the health issues and thinking of others. It's the whole more we, less me, I think could do everybody good to keep that mentality. And I am supremely thankful for all of the selfless people that did the minor act of putting a mask on to help keep their neighbors and their family and their coworkers safe during this pandemic. I did want to give an update on the CHAB meeting that we had on Monday. We continue to have great leadership through the chair. Alexis Hill is so passionate about this, and I'm so glad she is in that role. And even the vice chair, Ed Lawson, is just really embracing the benefits of the Nevada Cares campus and really advocating and pushing for the expanded services and facilities, which are coming along so tremendously. I'm so excited. I feel like we have turned the corner on some of the initial opening hiccups to a large degree. And we got a lot of very positive feedback from those that have access services at the Nevada Cares campus. The women's sheltering on the campus has been established. Excuse me, Councilmember Reese is now the member on CHAB. My apologies. I have a good memory. It's just short. So thanks to all the work of the entire group, the campus is starting to evolve. The Mod Pods are being assembled and placed as we speak. There's lots of great programs that are expanding there. Hopes, I think, is breaking ground this month or next on their facility adjacent to the Nevada Cares campus. And it still continues to serve almost 600 individuals every night, which is double what we had available to us just 10 months ago, folks. 10 months is as long as that's been open. So kudos to city staff, Jackie and Monica and Cynthia, and the updates that everybody gives. It is coming together, and I'm very proud of the work of the CHAB. And maybe that's something we should get when everybody comes up for air. Somebody could just give a 10-minute update, Mr. Thornley, Manager Thornley, on the progress that's being made there, because it is tremendous.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're moving on to item J1, which is our closing public comment. If you are in the attendee room at this time, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. It should be noted for the record that we did receive 6 letters of correspondence that were either general in nature or received after 4 p.m. yesterday, 2 various items in support, and 4 various correspondence as concerned. I don't additionally see any raised hands. So at this time, I'm just looking for a motion to adjourn.
Okay. I have a motion from Councilman Weber.
Second.
Second from Councilman Reese. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those all right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday to Councilmember Breckus yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.